Well, hello everyone, and happy Memorial Day if you're an American. We have Christian Hangout number 32 here, but we don't have a lot of people coming. It's just me and Bill Marchant so far, and he might not be able to stay very long. So this could end up being the shortest one yet, or if more people show up, it could end up being really long. But I'm probably not going to fly solo here because nobody wants to hear that. Let's be honest, folks. This is more fun when it's a conversation than my own monologue.
I would be proud to have the distinction of being on the longest and shortest Christian Hangout ever. That would be pretty neat.
Yeah, we're not going to see late night Bill tonight for sure. No. But not that he would care. But anyway, so I see we have 3 viewers. That's nice. Maybe I should send out the Twitter notification to let them know we're live real quick.
Oh, yeah. I should probably do the same.
All right. But Bill and I were talking before we went live about the issue of the human body. And this is something both of us have been reading about and thinking about lately. And I know that in the alt-right and various things like that, there's often talk about how to deal with addiction to things like pornography or sex, and how this is something that most men in this day and age have to deal with due to internet access. And I know this isn't the kind of stuff we normally discuss on here, although we sort of alluded to it last time. But I recently discovered a website called, I believe it's mychainsargone.org, and it was very interesting because it kind of cast the whole subject in a new light. And what this website talks about is that the reason so many men these days struggle with things like pornography and whatnot is because they have an improper view of the human body. And really, it's not just men, it's women too. I mean, we don't hear about the issue of women in porn, like being addicted to it either, but I believe that is a less discussed phenomenon. But since we're just men here, we can't really comment on that too much probably. But one of the, I guess, theses of this website is that the human body was created in the image of God, and therefore to view it as a purely sexual thing that needs to be covered up and to be ashamed of is, like, right off the bat, you have sort of an improper view of the way God intended it. So, and one thing that he talks about is that in previous generations, previous eras, nudity was not as uncommon as we think it was. Like, it wasn't like everybody kept themselves covered up. Like, people would be exposed to people's bodies, whether when they're bathing, or like even there were poor people who often went without clothing because they just couldn't afford them. And Bill, you were saying you were recently reading something about that?
Yeah, it wasn't really intended to be about that by any means, but I was reading a history book, and it was discussing some portion of revolutionary America, and it nonchalantly mentions that the one person there's son just went out without pants on, like no underwear, just like literally just a shirt on.
Yeah,
and that was just what they wore because it was hot out.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't particularly care. I don't think that this was in one of the more puritanical states where I get the feeling they probably would have cared more about that.
Yeah.
But it was just, it wasn't mentioned as something that was remarkable. It was just, yeah, he didn't wear pants.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I think... No, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go on. No, go on. If you have more to say, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that the sort of tabooness of nudity is in some ways almost a necessary thing in the modern age, because you can kind of see that it the period that we're talking about when it became super bad to have nudity anywhere was around the period of photography. So it's almost like it was a reaction to the fact that someone will sexualize the naked body. That
Hmm.
you will find the pervert out there that's going to be just take this in a sexual manner and won't appreciate it as art or as just a common everyday occurrence. So I think that that's an interesting parallel, that the rise of photography and the mass production of images.
And that's an interesting theory there. I
Sorry?
mean, I just said that's an interesting theory. I hadn't thought about that aspect, but that is certainly something to consider. I remember actually in the on this website they were saying that they were discussing how in other cultures, like they were talking about Japan, and there was a piece where basically there was some account from some Westerner living in Japan back in the 1940s, I guess, and he was describing how there was some, I guess, like factory where women would work, and so they would go into this factory and they'd change out of their clothes and into their work clothes, and there was a big window there where anybody passing by could have seen them changing, but like nobody was offended by it, nobody was like shocked or embarrassed by it. It was just mundane, and and this Western observer was seeing this and he was just like stunned by it because he couldn't believe that that would be just the norm. And I was just thinking about how I was reading that Japan apparently changed a lot of their laws about those things in response to more contact with the Western world, because it used to be common to, like, apparently it used to be common to just walk down the street to go to the public bath without wearing any clothes, and nobody thought anything of it. But like they sort of cracked down on that after they came into contact with Westerners and who frowned upon those things. So it makes me wonder, like, what are the roots of all this? And if, I mean, it's interesting now that you have, in the example of Japan, you have we've heard about the demographic decline, how a lot of men don't get married, they just look at porn all day. And it's interesting to see how in just a few generations they like went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I was reading a while ago, and this could be crazy. Anyone who's listening right now, feel free to tell me that I'm insane. But I was under the impression that the censorship laws that they have, where they can't show any genitalia at all, were a Western imposition on them. They were something that was given to them by the United States after World War II. As sort of part of their restructuring the government and type thing. They felt that was a necessary step to take. And yeah, I think that their overly obsessed censorship of anything nudity related, far beyond what we do, like in America, which is seen as very puritanical compared to Europe, where they're apparently much more liberal with their censorship laws in regards to nudity. Even theirs is significantly more censorious than the American one is, and you can see that it entirely could be that this is seen as the forbidden fruit, so they become obsessed with it in an observer type way, as opposed to a participant type way that would increase their birth rates and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I see that somebody in the text chat says, "Good morning from Tokyo." I wonder if he has any insights about these things. I wonder if he's trolling us.
Please tell me if I'm insane.
Yes, I want to know if Bill's insane too. But I remember, I think it was Mark Citadel actually wrote a piece called "Racial Kryptonite," where he talked about porn being kryptonite for the Japanese race, and I remember reading that. It was an interesting theory, but I wasn't, nothing against Mark, but it almost seemed a little too cute a theory. But I do wonder if there's something to an aspect of how porn can, like when you suddenly cut it off from people, something like that will have a stronger hold culturally. I don't know. It'd be interesting to sort of unpack that idea a little more.
Well, in the same way that prohibition increased alcohol consumption, right? Like if
Yes.
people want something that they're told they can't have when
Yeah.
they aren't explained good reasons why they can't have it, right? Like that's kind of the other side of the argument. Is the Christian side is these are the right things to do because God says it, and they will make for a better life and all of that kind of stuff. Whereas when it's governmental intervention, it's just, yeah, we say that alcohol's bad for you, so you can't have it. Or in the case of Japan, we say that porn's bad, nudity's bad for you, so you can't have it. There's no underlying good reason for it. It's just the will of the people.
Yeah. Well, is it the will of the people or the will of, or the common good?
Yeah, or whoever. It's not a cogent argument. You know, it's not something that'll stand up.
I was just doing a Molyneux impression. I said, not a cogent document. I have trouble doing his voice. Sometimes I can do it really well. Other times it sounds bad. And this sort of empty sophistry is actually quite destructive to a harmful discourse. That doesn't sound like him.
Yeah, you're getting there. You hit a couple of notes that were definitely Molyneux-esque. I'm sad that I can't do it better.
Yeah, you can't do stuff.
I'm sad that I can't do it better as a Canadian. I should be closer to his accent, but I'm not.
Yeah. Well, he was born in the UK, wasn't he? I think. And like he's talked about how he migrated to Canada from the UK.
Oh, that'd explain the uniqueness of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did we get on Stephen Molyneux? Stefan Molyneux?
He said that's not a cogent argument, and I said, not a cogent argument.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the main subject about the human body.
Yeah.
It's funny how one of the other things that this website discussed was that we often talk about, we hear this principle stated often that men are visually oriented creatures, and that's why women have to cover up, because the sight of women is going to make men lust after them. But they're saying that's actually not true. Like it claims that there's really, like, men are not just visually oriented creatures because, like, you know, they have like phone sex lines, or they have and it also mentioned how sometimes in these magazines, I guess they'll like try and like give a little like profile of the girl that they're showing to sort of like make the man feel a connection to her or something. Mm-hmm. And it says that really, you know, men and women are both wired to be relationally oriented, not just visually oriented. So oftentimes when they say like, well, men are just after sex, men just want sex, and that's all, like, well, no, there is more to us than that. We're not just ids. We actually, many of us do want a relationship. I mean, I know speaking for myself, I definitely don't just want sex. I actually would like to have a real relationship with a woman. That's something meaningful and lasting, not just like, I mean, I'm not going out to bars and picking up girls there just because that's not what I want. So yeah, I think it was interesting. Yeah. I mean, I suppose somebody could try and argue that this is like buying into certain like feminist arguments about men, or like trying to feminize men in some way, but I don't know. I think there's truth to it. But anyway, go on.
Well, just there's the thing is, and this is just coming to me now. So once again, in the text chat, if you feel like calling bullshit on me, feel free. The thing is, there are the base drives of men, and those are to procreate and then to provide for the family and protect the family. And those last two have basically been taken away from us in modern society, right? Like we are discouraged with all force to not do those last two, to let the women be the ones that provide for the family, and no one needs to protect the family. Immigrants welcome into your household. So those two other drives have kind of been taken away. The only one that we're allowed to express to any degree is the sexual drive to procreate. And even that is supposed to be an almost sterile drive, right? We're not supposed to actually create the children. We're just supposed to do the steps leading up to that.
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of of it is that the other drives that we normally would have, that would normally be the healthy of those drives, have been taken away from us. The focus has been shifted to the other ones. Those other that other one. Those other drives are still there. They're still, and people feel them to a greater and lesser degree, but they are we're discouraged from feeling them. We're discouraged from being the protector person. We're discouraged from being the provider. So
yeah. It's a sad state we're in. Can't even be what we're meant to be anymore.
Well, that's the craziest part of it, is that the I don't remember who said it, but the people that can describe us as we're either fallen angels or raised apes, and they're not. They're denying the fact that we're fallen angels while simultaneously ensuring that we can't act out the best impulses of being raised apes. Like they're trying to take away both the positive sides of both and leave us with the apes without the raised. You know, like
yeah,
fallen apes.
yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, like, it does seem like we're just being taught to see ourselves as just like as nothing. Like, we're not, like, we are just supposed to encourage us to embrace our basest desires and without anything bigger than that. Like, message we get everywhere.
Yeah, that's again the thing, is the antinatalism. All of this is, how wonderful is the child-free life? You need to stop having kids so that we can save the third world. All of that stuff. Where does that fit in with any of it? That's like it doesn't fit in with the idea that we're nothing more than animals, because why would we possibly care about anything besides procreation if we were nothing more than animals, right? And then our side of it, the Christian side of it, is saying that we do have a higher purpose, and part of that higher purpose is also procreating. So this this antinatalism of the child-free life, and we need to have fewer children, and the world population is far too high. It doesn't fit with either. It's this weird in-between state that doesn't work in anything except for this quasi-religious love of the foreign element, the not us, the suppliation. Is that the right word? In front of
sure.
Supplicant. Supplicant is the root of the word that I'm looking for. Supplication. Like you're groveling in front of the the little African children. Why are we groveling? Which side of this argument is telling us to grovel? Neither of them. The conclusion from neither of them, it makes sense for us to be groveling.
You're right.
That's what bothers me.
They're probably confused by it more than anything.
Yeah.
You groveling? I mean, they're like, "What are you groveling here for?"
I'm just gonna have another dozen kids. I don't care what you guys do.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was a Pale Hominid. It was a tweet that he made that I was mentioned in. So I occasionally get somebody will occasionally retweet this, and I'll get a notification on Twitter. It was something like, when they told us not to have too many kids, they conveniently forgot to tell the third world that, or something to that effect. Like in Western countries say, well, don't have too many kids. You don't want to overpopulate the world. But, well, these third world countries don't really think about that. They just pop them out.
Yeah. Yeah, and like there is the I think defensible in if you take away my other arguments against it, but the defensible pagan position that there's way too many people and we need to do like the eco-fascism type thing. I'm fine with that. You guys, I'll proselytize you about Christianity later, but that at least fits. It's saying that there is a higher power, and it's telling us to not have kids, right? Like it's coherent. It's just this thing saying there is no higher power, but we also shouldn't have kids is insanity to me. It's just insane.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I remember there was seeing an article about a guy who was saying that he intentionally plans not to have kids, and he hopes that humanity goes extinct because he doesn't want to damage the environment. Like, he thinks we're just destroying the environment, so he hopes humanity just goes extinct. And I'm like, okay, so you just want to save the Earth, but without any people to enjoy it? Like, that's just like the ultimate act of self-hatred, to want your own species to die.
Yeah, it's insane. I don't have a good explanation for it. Besides that, it is a like paganist religion with environmentalism as their like deity thing. Like, it's that they've taken up the lack religion of with environmentalism as their you are like deity thing.
You can hear an echo there, Lumen.
Greetings.
Hey, glad it's not
hello.
just the two of us. Not that me and Bill was bad, but I mean, it's always good to have a few more people in there who can.
No, I understand. I understand. It's fine. It's fine.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
What's that supposed to mean?
Happy Ramadan / infidel Bamathon to all.
Oh. So you speak Arabic?
Certain phrases.
Sorry.
Okay. Sorry, that wasn't the.
I don't trust you anymore. I think you're a secret Muslim.
That wasn't.
It is not the Muslim hangout.
It's either that, or I'm a secret Islamophobe. I'm an implicit Islamophobe, explicit Christian. Greetings to all.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
On Memorial Day.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Always.
Carry on with the conversation.
Earlier about
I was listening. It was about having kids and.
Well, before that, do you know what we were talking about? Did you catch any of that?
I don't believe I did.
Well, we were talking about the human body and how the current phenomenon of pornography and things like that may be tied in some ways to an improper view of the body. I was telling Bill about this website I found where it's trying to help men, or I suppose it could apply to women too, but it's saying that like the human body was created in the image of God, and therefore we shouldn't be just looking at it in sexual terms all the time. Like, it's better we need to develop a mentality of seeing it as non-sexualized, and then like the desire for things like pornography would go away. And I was reading this website the last week or so, and I've been really fascinated by these ideas, and it's really been occupying my head a lot. So
yeah. Well,
I mean, yeah, go on.
Well, as Christians, just like everything in life, we have a proper means of viewing, all the dimensions of the human experience, through our relationship with God. And there's God doesn't deny sexual attraction, but he does command that it be viewed and dealt with in a certain way. Just like just like God doesn't deny that we have the urge to be comfortable, the the urge to have friends, and but again, I mean, we need to, if we're going to be right with ourselves, right with our fellows, and right with the world, we need to look at it as Christians. But yeah, I'm kind of oversimplifying as usual. So much of our problems are, related to how how wide the chasm is that between how we European peoples used to construct our societies and maintain them, and how it is now, and the primary factor there is our how God figures in our lives as individuals and as communities. So yeah, I mean, as communities, we've pretty much gotten rid of the need and the advisability of having God, and here we are. It's at that point, anything becomes possible. All sorts of outside influences and our own internal base impulses can have free reign.
Mm-hmm. One thing I was thinking about along these lines about seeing the body only in a sexual context is Islam, and
yeah.
We all know how Islam forces the women to wear these, hijabs or burqas or whatever, and everybody says, "Oh, you're oppressing women," but it's like you go to these countries, or you see when they come here and they see women who don't wear those things, and they start harassing them, they start groping them, and it's like maybe that's why they wear them, because this is literally the way these people are. So, I mean, if we are people who see the body properly, and we don't feel tempted to just start, coming onto a woman because we see her body, then, like, I mean, if we reduce ourselves to, if we only see the body in a sexual context, we're basically no better than these sand people.
Yeah, well, it is Islam is a very, it's a sensual religion. Their entire concept of heaven, which they're striving for, it's all based on sensual pleasure. Everything from sex to drinking rivers of wine that doesn't really get you drunk, and all sorts of food. It reflects who they are as a people, and I think the world would be better if everyone converted to Christianity. But this is a reflection of these people. This is who they are. And another thing about their, I mean, I agree. They that's one way that they deal with sexuality and the sexual appeal that men naturally feel towards women, but it's also a reflection of their inability to, because you can have a society where women are modest and chaste, but they don't have to be covered from head to toe. So it's kind of, I mean, but we've allowed ourselves to become divorced from that, our own native way of doing it.
Yeah. I mean, really thinking about things in this light does sort of, bring a lot of ideas to mind, because I think it was with Todd Lewis. I was having a conversation with him a while back, and I think he was saying that he was talking about the Sistine Chapel, and he's like, Michelangelo, he painted a naked body inside a church. Can you believe that? And like, what a degenerate! And but like, no. I mean, now that I think of it, well, no, in those days people understood that the body was a reflection of God's beauty, and that it wasn't meant to be sexual. So, I mean, if we could, we need to find a way to get back to a more innocent, I don't know if innocent, well, a more proper view of the body. And I know that, didn't Pope John Paul have something called the theology of the body?
Yeah.
Pope John Paul II. You know what that said exactly, Mr. Catholic?
I should know, but I don't. I didn't read it. I didn't read that. encyclical. But you know, I mean, if it's a reflection of Orthodox Catholic teaching, you know, it's just that kind of what I said already is that there's a proper way to approach sexuality, and I heard Bill earlier mentioning having children, you know, and that's, you know, first and foremost, that's the point. And even, I mean, you don't even have to be Catholic to get this. I mean, it's natural law, and you know, it's natural for a man and woman to be attracted to each other sexually. However, it should be welcome, Sam.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I've just heard that, like, about the whole thing about the Sistine Chapel and nudity in the church. Well, it's showing the male form, so I don't know if there's as much temptation there, you know.
Well, you know, in that regard, in Renaissance art, the female form was also depicted. There was generally a little bit more modesty, but you know, you look at Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. You know, it wasn't shied away from. But you know, again, you know, this isn't that big of an issue when society is healthy, and clearly society is not healthy today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was like from what I understand, the Catholic cultures are more loosely monogamous than, like, let's say Puritan New England. Like, there was a bit of sexual immorality going on, especially with the Borgia dynasty, you know.
I'm sorry, what's that? There was a...
You're saying that in the Catholic countries, there tended to be more loose sexually?
Yeah, like, especially compared to the Protestant countries. Like, I'm not sure about if it's true with the Lutheran countries, but it's certainly true with the British Isles. You know, that's where Puritanism comes from.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know that in some of the more closer to the equator countries, they tended to have reputations for being more sexual, like France and Italy, those places. Spain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's never been a society where everybody's sexual behavior was perfect, but
yeah, of course not. Probably the closest, yeah, probably the closest society to perfect monogamy was Puritan New England, where, like, everybody was expected to be married, and if you were a single bachelor, they kind of looked at you with suspicion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that even my father said even as recently as the 1950s, that was how it was looked at. Like even in the 50s, men, it was expected that everybody was married. And like, I remember watching an episode of Ozzie and Harriet once where Ozzie's out in public someplace and he gets, men says, "Excuse me, sir, is your wife with you?" And like, they just assumed he had a wife. So, I mean, back in those days, it was pretty common for everyone to be expected to be married.
Yeah.
So,
I just think that there's at this point, the break. Who has something in the background going ching ching ching?
Oh, let me turn off my fan. Yes,
well, just mute your microphone when you're not talking.
Okay, sure.
But
we miss Sam's fan.
But I think I think that the issue now is that there's been such a complete break from tradition. You know, that, you know, in times past, whether it was a Catholic or a Protestant society, I don't think we were ever too far from remembering, you know, the traditions that we understood were good, you know, for the health of our communities. But at this point, we're, you know, we've been severed so thoroughly, so violently, and for for long enough that there's, you know, that there are several generations that separate us, and that's why, I mean, and this is, you know, anyone who's honest, you know, understands that this is the problem with satanic ideology, which is essentially any leftist ideology. It's satanic. It's about chaos. This is the issue, is when your ideology is about being against something and tearing things down, you don't have anything left, and then there's, you know, people and societies are kind of cast adrift, and there's nihilism. So that's kind of, I think that's why things are so bad right now.
Exactly. Well, I want to add that the most destructive of those ideologies is feminism, because it tears a rift right through male and female, which men and women need to come together and cooperate in order to form a healthy society. They need to have children. But now, like, the majority of women hate the vast majority of men. It's like, if you're not a movie star, they hate you. They're not just unattracted to you, they hate you and want to see you die. That's how extreme it has become.
Goes back to Bill's theory about the era of photography messing up a lot of things. Were you going to say something, Bill?
Well, yeah, just speaking of being forced to separate us, I'm going to have to leave. Separate the chat. I'm sorry.
All right, see ya.
Well, thanks for stopping by, Bill, because we wouldn't have gotten this thing off the ground without you.
Yeah, and I'm kind of sad. I was looking forward to finally getting to talk to Bill a little bit.
I will be on the next one. I just there's some insane stuff going on right now that I was just going to be on here for half an hour, 45 minutes.
You're just getting ready for late night shill, aren't you? I'll follow you. I'll follow you on Twitter. So, and
all right, I might follow back, maybe.
Well, we'll see. I tried it once. I'll try it again.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys later.
God bless, Bill.
You too.
Good, Bill. Good luck. So now the party can begin. No,
right.
Dad's gone.
But
no, I think yeah, like people, like, sorry. Let me gather my train of thought real quick, because it's all over the place. I'm thinking of everything from feminism to the birth control pill, and definitely the birth control pill, like, enabled a lot of the degeneracy that we see right now, you know, with hookup culture and all that stuff.
And not just that, but the Christian endorsement of it, and I mentioned this in one of our previous hangouts. You know, Bishop Fulton Sheen said back when it was, I think it was the Anglican Church and maybe the Baptist Church. I can't remember. It was several
Episcopalian, probably.
Yeah, well, it was several Protestant churches. They came out and they said that they feel that birth control can be compatible with the Christian life, and you know, can be okay in a Christian family. And when that happened, that's when Reverend Fulton Sheen said, you know, this is it. You know, in 50, 60, 70 years or so, it's just going to be, you know, Catholics and pagans that are still. So it's not just, it's, and he was right. He was pretty much right. But so it's not just that these, and you're right, Sam. I mean, that was just like a, you know, that's just like weaponized pause right there.
Yeah.
But the endorsement from the churches, from the, you know, which is what people look to bolster and to maintain and to build up their moral defenses against Satan. You know, and so when they endorse it, that's makes it even more lethal.
Exactly, because you're divorcing sex from reproduction, you know, and if you could just have sex for pleasure, what's the point of a marriage? What's the point of consecrating a couple exclusively to one another if the purpose is not to families, you know, to have children and raise them? You know, why not just, like, I don't know, like, just have random hookups on Friday and Saturday night, or like go see a prostitute, you know?
Yeah.
And I've had this argument with my evangelical friend, my fellow evangelical, about like he doesn't really, he has sort of like the evangelical like romantic view of marriage that's just like all about sex and romance, and that's very like, that's just very misguided and sensual, you know.
Yeah, and it's
In my opinion,
that's the, you know, the primary thing that a man or a woman, a Christian man or a woman, should be looking for in a potential mate is virtue. And you know, it's of course it's great if there's physical attraction. That's wonderful. If there's, you know, some common ground and interests, you know, and but the primary thing is virtue, and that's where everything healthy starts. You know, if you as a Christian man find a virtuous woman, you know, she's going to be able to help you as a man in ways that you can't help yourself. And I can say that from experience, and vice versa. You know, what you're going to do is you're going to have a family. You're going to, you know, through your combined, and this is something that you know, if you pray the rosary, this is something that you're asking for in the last decade of the glorious mysteries. You're asking for an increase in virtue, and you're meditating on the queenship of Mary. But that's the primary thing, and again, we've become so severed from our traditions. You know, it's like when you if you remember your grandparents or great grandparents, you know, talking about how they met, they might mention in an almost, you know, by today's standards, an almost kind of like cheesy way, like, oh man, she was the cutest gal in 4 counties, and she could, you know, she could pluck a chicken like it was no one's business, you know, stuff like that. But what they were really talking about is, you know, this was my helpmate. This was who God intended me to be with, and that's gone, that largely, you know, except for people like us. I will say, as I always do, though, that we need to remember to be patient with those who still don't quite get this, but maybe they do have the potential to get this, because, you know, we were there too. I certainly was.
yeah.
Guys, give me one moment. I just have to grab something out of the oven. I'll be right back. Please just continue without me. I'll be right back.
Okay. I had a question, but I just momentarily slipped my mind. If I remember, I'll bring it up. So go on.
Well, yeah. Going off of Lumen's point about being a helpmate, nowadays most wives are helpmates for their corporations, not so much for their husbands.
Yeah.
Like they hire a nanny to watch their baby. They do takeout instead of cooking. Like they can't do anything. It's like, you know, they think that the only thing that a marriage requires, and men are guilty of this too, is that like the wife's only job is to provide a warm body, you know, but a prostitute could provide a warm body. Sorry to be crude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I remember what my question was. It's kind of along these lines, but it's something we were discussing earlier. But do you think that, you know, we hear often talk about how, well, earlier, Sam, you mentioned that the male form was depicted on the Sistine Chapel, but you said you didn't think that's not as big a deal. But do you think that this idea that men are primarily visually oriented is in fact false? Because I was discussing this website that I linked over here in the text chat. It argues that that's actually not true, that men are not primarily visually oriented, that men and women are both relationally oriented, because, well, as you were discussing, you know, if you just want to have sex, you could just go to a prostitute, but it takes more than that to really love someone and to really, you know, feel fulfilled inside from that love and to be in communion with God. So do you think that that's a legitimate statement, that men are relationally oriented as much as women are?
I'm not sure. I would say that, I mean, it's not, men and women are not the same. I think men are a little more visually oriented and women are a little more relationally oriented. Although, like, having the looks as a man definitely does help with your sexual market value. And being relational definitely helps you as a woman being able to, you know, because if you want to be a wife and a mother, you have to be a decent human being that's met that your husband is able to get along with. Yet most women in this culture aren't even that. It's like, do you know the Beckloff?
Yeah, the Beckloff. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like a gamer, libertarian kind of guy.
Yeah, he's evangelical. Like, he goes into like the manosphere stuff a little bit, and he said, like, back in the day, we used to fantasize about having a hot girl, but now, like, we fantasize just about having someone who's nice, because it's gone so far with feminism.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I would say for me, like, I've never been the kind of guy who looks for all that matter to me in a woman. Like, not sound like, oh, I'm Mr. Sensitive guy or whatever, but like I never just. I've always had a hard time just seeing looks only. Like, I always did want to have a woman who could be, who'd be more than just good looking. Like, a lot of the women I've attracted to often aren't like the ones who, at first glance, you would think like, oh, she's gorgeous, but it's like they're just nice people. They're good people. So I think that goes a long way, more than people realize. So when I hear people saying like stuff like, yeah, we're men, all we want is sex, like, I feel like, no, you're playing into a stereotype that's really based on a lie. That, like, no, men are oriented. We are geared toward more than that, unless you're just a degenerate, or you're just somebody whose IQ is so low that you just think in terms of sex all the time.
It's that's a problem I have with a lot of like men in the manosphere, especially in the pickup artist camp. You know, because like it's all about like getting laid with them, and it's like they don't have any romantic connections to any women. It's so sense of the transcendent at all. It's just like going through, like, sleeping with women for them is just like going through images of porn and videos of pornography. It's like so.
Well, it's essentially saying, I'm upset that, you haven't played fair with me, so I'm going to do the same to you. Which is, it's almost in a way the inverse of feminism. Feminism takes women who have been led to believe that their highest aspiration is to act like a degenerate man, and this is what I can't speak with a lot of authority on MGTOW. I mean, I kind of get the sentiment that would launch such a movement, but it seems like it's just, it's kind of like saying, well, you women have acted in a unethical, immoral way, made us suffer, so we're just gonna kind of also be immoral and unethical. And I mean, and it has the added poison of just ensuring that no white babies are born.
Oh yeah, well, exactly. Because people who are most affected by this are white people. Hello?
Go ahead, Ian. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted there. I was just saying, I know that some people have said that MGTOW is not quite as bad as people make it out to be. Like, it's more about saying, it's more about a focus on self-improvement necessarily than saying I reject women. Like, some people say that if you do the MGTOW thing, you still leave it's possible you could still leave open the possibility of getting married and having a family. It's just that, like, it's about saying, I'm not going to focus on that. And not that I embrace the MGTOW label myself, but I feel like in some ways that's kind of where I am, because right now I don't really feel like I have a whole lot of prospects as far as marriage goes. So I'm just going to focus on doing what I can do for the time being. And if that possibility shows itself, then, you know, certainly I'll try to explore it, but I don't know.
That seems like something different to me. That seems like just being, that's what, you know, a normal Christian guy does. You know, it's like, okay, you know, I'm just going to be the best man I can be. I'm going to do what I can as a Christian. I'm going to try to be a good person, work on myself, whatever. And at some point, that will be noticed by a decent woman. And again, hopefully it'll be, you know, a woman of virtue, you know, someone from your parish or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Continuing off of that, MGTOW is a separate camp within the manosphere that's different than the PUA. Yeah, I would consider myself 90% MGTOW. Like, if Eastern Europe did not exist, I'd be 100%. But
Yeah.
it's, the way I look at it is that a lot of pickup artist type people criticize MGTOW, saying like they're all perma virgins and stuff like that, which may be true of some of them, but like, I mean, in order to like get laid in American or Western culture, like, go read some of the articles on Return of Kings about how you get laid, and you're gonna see the most underhanded and deceptive shit ever. And like, do you really want to do that to get laid?
Yeah, and I mean, it just seems like the you know, the most important issue is being ignored, which is, you know, what made women this way, you know, and you know, you can be upset about how the modern woman is, and you know, I can certainly sympathize with that myself, but you know, at the same time, we all know that, you know, women are more far more susceptible to so I'm not going to say vanity, but it is something that would often be called vanity, but you know, I'll say, like, you know, social pressure, social pressure, and
of course,
and so, you know, how did we get to this place? You know, how did we get here where women, you know, so that needs to be addressed, and you know, you can say, you know what, I'm just going my own way, and you know, maybe once in a while I'll have a one-night stand, or you know, maybe somehow a decent woman will notice me, and that, you know, that part's good. But you're still kind of, in a way, it seems a bit lazy to me if you're not at least addressing, you know, mentioning, talking about how it got to this point, because it wasn't always like this, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you are. Like, if you are a content creator, one of the MGTOW content creators, then you are definitely responsible for like mentioning how we got to this point. But if you're just like a random person on the street who decided to go MGTOW, I mean, and decided to focus on self-improvement, maybe it's not as important for you to like explain how it got this way, if or whatever, unless you're explaining to a couple friends. But I think generally you kind of like, sorry to go off on a tangent here. I was listening to Aaron Clary, like, if you guys are familiar with him, like, he gave some very, yeah, you know him personally?
Well, not personally, but I know who he is. I didn't know he was still around. I thought he kind of disappeared a while back.
Yeah, he kind of gives MGTOW-ish advice, you know, like he doesn't come from a Christian perspective, but like he would tell you that, like, for example, chasing girls is a waste of time. You're better off focusing on self-improvement, doing cool things. And like, if you talk about with a girl, like you're gonna get more attention that way. Like, oh, I've
You mean
hiked and
talk about? Oh, yeah.
talk about
Sorry.
like how you went, you know, hiking in like went to some exotic trip or whatever, and she's gonna be like, oh, can I come with you? You know, stuff like that.
And again, that's looking for, you know, that's looking to play off of women's vanity. You know, I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, well, he's not a pickup artist type guy. He's more of like, I think he's MGTOW mostly, because he's not. He has no plans on getting married.
Well, I think this entire discussion also sort of underscores the, you know, the egregious lack of hierarchy that Western societies have been contending with for a while now, where you have people, you know, who are in NRX and, you know, traditional Catholics and members of the Orthodox Church, etc., who, you know, the latter group is looking to set a moral example, is looking to, you know, draw attention to and hopefully resuscitate, you know, salubrious facets of our society, which, you know, traditionally kept us going, you know, kept us healthy. You know, they're in line with our nature. They're in line with our with what helped us to succeed, helped us to become who we are. So you have those people, and then the former group who are just kind of like, they're, whether it's they just don't have the intellect or the character, and I'm not looking to throw stones here, but you know, there are a lot of people in our movement, in the fringes of our movement, who they just need to be led. You know, they have, you know, they're going to be on our side. They understand that something's wrong. They get it. They know that. But left to their own devices, they might not be able to make the most ethical and sensible decisions. And I'm not trying, again, I don't know a lot about MGTOW, and that's by design. You know, I heard about it, I checked it out a little bit, and I was like, this isn't for me. But I'm not trying to say that, I'm not trying to generalize everyone, but I think this is an issue that will more and more, you know, kind of, it'll become something salient that we have to deal with. You know, the fact that in a proper hierarchy, especially in a European society, you have, you know, they were called the aristocracy or elites, whatever, who, it's not just that they have more money or more intelligence, but they have a vocation, they have a calling to set a good example, to care about those who don't have as much money or intelligence or whatever. And I think that's part of it. And I think that's why you get some guys who come over from MGTOW into the alt-right, into traditionalism.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I've talked to my brother, my Christian brother Greg, about this, and he says that like the church, in this content text, he's mentioning the evangelical church. He says that the church needs the manosphere, and the manosphere needs the church, because the church doesn't really understand the crisis of sexuality that feminism has caused. It just looks at, like, all it says is be more Jesus-y. You know, it takes a very it takes a very pietistic approach. You know what I mean by pietism?
Yeah, well, I think you're talking about more about almost being pharisaical. You know, you're
Exactly.
you're talking about it. You're paying lip service.
Right. And like, you know, like they're especially pharisaical about premarital sex, yet all these evangelicals, single evangelical men who do not fornicate, they are the biggest consumers of pornography. Like,
Yeah, Go ahead.
What do you mean by pharisaical about that, though? Like, I mean, certainly you agree that premarital sex is wrong.
Oh yeah, but I mean, they sort of like are focusing so much on just like one aspect of it that they have a complete blind spot to it. I mean, like, for example, it's wrong to have premarital sex with your spouse, but like compared to like the stuff that like they watch in pornography, it's not even the same thing. I don't know. It's kind of like pick your poison, I guess.
Okay,
I mean,
I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is the public school system. Like, we need to abolish the public school system and just return to homeschooling. That way, like, and let men and women decide to get married when they are ready. You know, that way, like, they're more likely to be pure on their marriage night, to be virgins on their marriage night. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's much easier to keep your virginity until marriage if you get married at 18 than it is if you get married at 30.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, on the subject of marriage, did we talk about this in a previous hangout about how I was reading up about how marriage customs have changed over time? Is this something we talked about already before?
I'm not familiar. I don't. It doesn't ring a bell for me.
Okay. Well,
me neither.
What? Okay. Well, I'll just share what I had read. This was a while ago, but I was curious about like what the history of marriage was and how marriages were recognized in different societies. And you know, nowadays we think of marriage as something that has to be, you know, the church might have to be a part of it, the state might have to be a part of it, but like I was reading that many, many centuries ago in England, I don't know about other countries, but in England at least, the laws concerning marriage were that to be married, a man and a woman just had to basically mutually consent that they were married. So they didn't have to have a ceremony. They didn't have to do any of that. They just like, you have a girl, and you say, hey, do you want to be my wife? Okay, then that
So
makes you married.
sort of like common law almost.
I guess you could look at it that way.
But it was before they were living together, or
no, like you could just take your girl out for a walk and say, hey, do you want to get married? And
oh wow,
you could be married. I guess it's like that's my understanding. But the interesting thing about this is that oftentimes there were a lot of disputes about marriages because, like, you know, you didn't have to have. That's why the idea of having a witness to a marriage became a thing, because a lot of times, you know, somebody would claim we're married, and then one person would say, no, we're not married. I never agreed to marry you, and the other person. So there'd be disputes about whether two people were actually married. So I think that's why they moved more.
You can see how that might get messy.
Yeah. Or
but I'm
like,
thinking
or like he would agree to marry with multiple girls, and like there's that argument there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I can see how like having sort of like a legal sanction for it makes it a little easier, but like, I don't know. I think like it would be better in some ways if we didn't have to make it some big thing where you had to go through all these legal processes to get married. Like maybe, I mean, personally, I'm not. My view is that the state shouldn't be involved with marriage at all. I think that the church, okay, that's one thing, but I'm not really in favor of civil marriage. I mean, I think that that's how you get things like gay marriage, and because if you let the state decide what marriage is, then you can pervert it any way you want.
Yeah, and also the divorce rate.
Right.
Like the divorce laws that like, and alimony and child support and all that nonsense that ruins men's lives and is used as leverage by evil women against the men that they marry.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I mean,
that's why 70% of
Go on.
Continuing off that point, that's why 70% of marriages are instigated. I mean, 70% of divorces have been instigated by the women. Like,
Right.
it's the woman that files the divorce.
Hmm.
And that's why we have a 50% divorce rate in America.
Is that still the case? Because I remember hearing that the divorce rate's going down, but part of that's because fewer people are getting married in the first place.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, from a secular perspective, there is like really no benefit to getting married. Just cohabitate, you know, have raise children in a cohabitating environment.
Yeah.
Or like you could like do the whole serial monogamy thing.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, my view of marriage is that divorce shouldn't happen except in the case of unfaithfulness, which is what Jesus says. So I'm going to go by what he says.
Right.
But, so, I mean, the
How
best way
about
is to,
how about if the man refuses, if the man does not provide for the wife and his kids, would that be a ground for divorce?
well, if Jesus, I mean, what does Jesus say? Is he just specifying that, or what does Paul say anything about that? I mean, I think obviously that's a bad situation that has to be considered. I'm not trying to trivialize that. I'm just saying we should discuss that, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, like,
well, again, like the problem is that like men have an opt out. Like men have a way out of their responsibilities as a breadwinner for the family because now women work. So like you could choose.
Or they you know they're taken care of by the state.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that too.
The alternative husband.
Exactly. I mean, you could just like if you're a woman right now, you don't even need a husband. You could just like get artificially
Inseminated.
Yeah, artificially seminated, or you could find some deadbeats to impregnate you, and like they'll all be raised by the state.
Well, in all of this, you know, and it's atomized, and you know, what we're talking about here is something that's happened to us that this all used to be integrated. You know, there wasn't an issue about the state being involved. There wasn't an issue about, you know, men feeling they could do this, women feeling they could, take this, cheap and lazy and unethical way out, because this all used to be integrated, and this is what's happened to us as Europeans. You know, we used to have all of this stuff was unspoken. It was all woven together seamlessly, and this is how our societies functioned, the same way that the Muslims that we were talking about earlier. This is why, as poor as Muslim societies are, as as backward, as dysfunctional as they might be, they're all cohesive. You know, they all
Exactly.
they're always going to stay together because they don't let anything affect what they know. And again, this wouldn't work for a European family or community or nation, but this is what works for them, and this is why they keep doing it, and they're not afraid to admit that. And this is one thing I admire about Muslims. And I'm not saying that I want to imitate Muslim societies. I would never want to live among them. I certainly don't think they should live among us. But this is our problem, is we don't do that. And we've allowed. I mean, we can blame the merchants to a certain degree, and we should, but we also have to understand that we've allowed ourselves to to be, whether we call it being bamboozled, being manipulated, being
weak,
whatever. Yeah, I mean, we've allowed ourselves to get to this point where we actually we've become so self abnegating. We're not even comfortable enough to admit that we have a culture, that we have a heritage, that we have achievements. You know, we're tearing down these monuments. That's one small example, but this is why we're at this state. And then when when you get a people that are that have sort of, you know, imbibed of this poison for long enough, and then you have something like the 1965 Immigration Act, where you start allowing, you know, countless hordes of people who are nothing like us, then that's why we are where we're at, and this is what needs to change. And sadly, it's not going to change until there's something, you know, pretty cataclysmic, until there's something very violent, widespread. But that's what we have to get back to. What we have to get back to is this integrated whole, where, you know, it's about God and the people, and that's what the state is based off of. That's, you know, again, nation. The word nation comes from the same word that gives us birth. You know, nativity. It's where you come from, and it's made up of the people. It's made up of, you know, it's a reflection of the people. And the same with culture. I mean, culture comes, you know, from the same root as cult, and it's, you know, what do the people believe? What works for them? So that's our issue. And I think this is something that, sadly, a lot of us in our movement, they kind of forget about. They you know, we do have. It's the same way that Christians who are cucked, you know, Christians who have what C.S. Lewis called Christianity in water, which is just another way of saying, you know, watered down Christianity. You know, pick and choose.
Right.
You know, yeah, but you know, they forget that we already have the answer. We already have a workable blueprint, you know, in the form of the Bible, in the form of the Catechism. The same thing goes for our secular society, which used to be just a reflection of our natural, organic, you know, not just religious, but also just our biological impulses. You know, we have the blueprint for what works for us as a society, and people forget that. You know, it's you know, at the risk of you know, sort of, I guess, alienating people. You know, the answer is it's not fascism, it's not National Socialism. There are parts of both of those ideologies that I find respectable, that I find admirable. But the answer is pretty simple. It's what worked for us for centuries, and that's exactly. that's what we need to get back to. And I hope we do. I hope, you know, once it all goes down, you know, once Kali Yuga, whatever you want to call it, the you know, the great chastisement, as Catholics might call it, once it all goes down, I hope we can get back to that. You know, that's because we already have the answer, and we've allowed ourselves to be led astray. We've allowed ourselves to get to a pass where, you know, you can't even ask the question, you know, like, hey, didn't we have this figured out before? Didn't we know what to do? You know, you do that in Britain, you go to jail. So it's that's the issue, and that's what hopefully we as Christians will understand, that we play, that we should play a pivotal role in leading people back to this.
Right. And another thing is that, like, we need to abandon the conservative movement, because they're not conserving anything except their jobs.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I abandoned them quite a while ago myself.
Yeah, like, for example, like, if I decide to, like, let's say I find the perfect wife, whether she's from the Midwest or most likely from abroad, and I bring her here and I raise my kids, well, I'm going to be raising them upstream against a culture that is doing everything to take their soul. And it's especially my daughter's soul. And if my wife does not homeschool my kids, my kids will be lost to the enemy. 80% certain that my kids will be lost to the enemy if my wife does not homeschool my kids. So that pretty much lowers the number of potential mates I have, because very few women are interested in being mothers, and much less are interested in being homeschool moms.
Yeah, and this is the reason that, daughters have always been guarded, by sane societies, because, I mean, look what happened to Trump with Kushner. I mean, if you don't guard your daughter against pernicious outside influences, you're going to be undermined, and when that happens on a grand scale in a society, where you have, in our case, you have young white women who are just, drunk on the poison of hip hop culture. Look what this does. When you it's just a confluence of all the perfect conditions for not just societal disaster, but for the complete deracination and demoralization and ultimately destruction of a people. This poisonous popular culture, and then women who are very far from the normal idea of being a mom, staying at home, like you were saying, teaching the kids at home, and being a helpmate for your husband, being his rock, the same way that he's your rock, in a different way, of course, because we're complementary. But if young ladies do think of something like that, it's a Pavlovian response. It's like, oh, that's oppression, and this is, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm saying something that we've all heard or thought of a million times, but these are the things that we need to think of. We need to think of this. This is an issue I see that hopefully we'll be able to get over in traditional neo-reactionary and alt-right circles, where there's this almost autistic, ADHD, OCD hyperfocus on certain issues, and
especially IQ.
Well, I mean, and that's an important one. But what I mean is, not looking at the big picture, which is okay. These are all important issues. I'm not saying that a lot of the issues that people hone in on are important, but there needs to be a, you kind of look at the big picture and then you break it down. It's like, okay, when your car breaks down, you don't say, maybe I should just go ahead and check the spark plugs, just randomly. I mean, you kind of say, okay, my car broke down. Okay, I heard this noise. Okay, it sounded like whatever. I think that people lose sight of the big picture, and they have their pet issue, and I don't know. It's something we're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, and also a society's men will only be as upright and virtuous as a society's women are. Because if 80% of your women are sluts, then your average man is not going to be that upstanding and virtuous.
Yeah.
Like, at least within the church, there are upright men, based on the assumption that, like, we don't know for sure, but at least based on the assumption that the women in the church are not sluts like the women in the world are, which may or may not be true. I mean, I've heard some bad things, that are out there. I don't know if they are rumors or not. And I've seen some red flags personally with some women I see in my church. So I don't know, like, what's gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. There's. It's the saddest thing about feminism. At least in the immediate sense. You know, notwithstanding what it does in societies, you know, once it's instituted on in a widespread way. But the saddest thing is how it robs women of their true strength as women. It robs women of what they have and that and only they have as women, you know, which isn't only, you know, the ability to bear a child and raise a child, but also if you're lucky enough to fall in love with a virtuous woman and to live your life with a virtuous woman as a man, you start to understand how her influence works in your life, and that's very powerful. You know, women have you know, there are things that we can sort of you know, make fun. Oh, hi, William. There are things we can make fun of them about, and I don't mean in a mean-spirited way, but you know, as men, the differences between us, but the strengths that they have. You know, a good woman is extremely important. You know, in helping a man to temper his, you know, more unrefined impulses, his more base impulses,
more carnal impulses.
Yeah, and just, you know, just by her very presence, you know, this is you know, it's a soothing palliative effect, and you know, when we rob women of this through feminism, and that's a tragedy. You know, to take, it's the same way that it, you know, what happens with men, you know, with feminism. You know, when men are robbed of, you know, it feels good for men to try to be, you know, just to try to be there for women, you know, open the door, you know, carry something, whatever, you know, be chivalrous, you know. So these are tragic things, and just in the immediate sense, you know, just on the effect that they have on individuals, and of course on, you know, as they metastasize in societies, they start breaking down the entire society. Yeah, and this would happen. This would happen with Muslim. This would happen in Muslim societies too. If you know, the idiots in our societies had their way and could, you know, bring democracy to these places, they'd just start breaking down. And Muslims know this, which is why they resist it.
You know,
yeah.
To respond to something Sam said earlier, it kind of made me think about a subject I've been pondering lately. He mentioned that, you know, if he has kids, then if they're not homeschooled, they're going to have to face a world that's trying to steal their soul every day. And it made me think that really, in this day and age, we don't have the view of ourselves as outsiders to society, even though we probably should, because, I mean, I think most Christians don't view the world that way, where they see themselves as outsiders, like we know that we're in this world but not of it.
Right.
But like, too often many Christians have the viewpoint that you know, yeah, we're Christians, that's just our thing, but they don't see it as, like, they can't really grasp the idea that the entire world out there is trying to work against us and is trying to destroy us, because it is more so than people realize. So yeah, it was just a thought that came to mind, because I think a lot of Christians are too trusting of the secular world.
Exactly. It's basically a lot of them. Yeah, I think the problem is that Christians, especially evangelicals, are beta providers for the cathedral. Like, they're the only reason why the system is continuing is because the conservative movement and the evangelical movement is helping it continue by insulating their families enough to keep them stable, but but not enough to prevent their kids from joining the system.
It's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, William, not to end the subject, but can you test your mic now? William? I thought I heard you earlier.
I was muted, sorry.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yep, I hear you okay.
Okay, good.
So we've been talking about a lot of things. We've talking about the human body. We're talking, and its relation to our sexualized culture. We were talking about marriage. We're talking about MGTOW. A lot of I guess
And the
subtitle.
the WQ.
The woman question.
The woman question.
I guess sort of. Even along those lines.
Yeah.
You know, I guess we haven't talked about it as much as we were. I was talking earlier when Bill Marchant was here, but I remember William, you talked about how when your children were younger, you would say that they're still in Eden because they wouldn't wear clothes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, but I was talking earlier, like, do you think that part of the reason that there's so much obsession with sex these days is because the human body has become viewed in too sexual a light more so than it should be, and that too often, you know, people don't grow up with nudity being like a mundane thing, so they only see the body ever in a sexual context. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think there's some definitely truth in what you're saying there. I don't know. In the scripture, I mean, nakedness was bad. Like when Noah was drunk and naked, it was a sin. Of course, it's probably Ham did more than just look on him, but there is.
Oh yeah, I think that's a euphemism for like something like pretty disturbing.
Yeah. But but then like David dances naked before the Lord coming into, and he offends people, especially his wife Michael, right? So obviously there's not a fixed.
Oh yeah, and also like LUMEN was discussing the Renaissance painting, how like they depicted the male and female form, and it like they had a more mature, transcendent understanding of it. You know, it wasn't as based and carnal as what we have today with pornography.
Yeah, and we can't even imagine. We don't even know quite how to think of it. I mean, the leftists critique it as, you know, all that stuff was for male gaze, they say, right? All that
right.
All that kind of nudity was kind of you know, low what do you call it? Soft porn, essentially.
Lowbrow.
Soft.
It was just kind of a warm up for the coming patriarchy.
Yeah. But I think, if overly sexualized, our society is nuts. I mean, we aren't the only one. I mean, if you look back, I mean, I think this is what happens at a certain phase in a culture when there's enough prosperity that sex can be separated from marriage and separated from reproduction. I mean, this is exactly what Marxists want to do. They want to separate. Yeah. They do theoretically what I think happens in times of prosperity, anytime you get kind of from agrarian societies upward. And so you end up being able to just kind of, you know, manage to kind of get by and still have people be fed and still have new people be made in some loose form or other. But, you know, the rules, the need for kind of formal rules and, you know, a tighter sense of, and so it allows for, you know, sexual pleasure as an abstracted thing away from marriage to being, you know, to be able to become a cultural good in itself. And that's certainly where we are right now. But I mean, I think people are realizing that it's kind of empty and boring. I mean, some people are still obviously going down that road, but a lot of people, I think, we see where there is a natural reaction taking place, because it's sort of, it isn't fulfilling, and in fact most people don't actually get to participate in it. It's they just end up jacking off to porn, not actually
And I think that's why
sex in relationship.
Most men are, at least.
Well, and women aren't getting, if they got a firm and inflexible, really, sort of response about it, it might, because I suspect that even the most blue-haired, hairy armpitted, tattooed, weird piercinged feminist out there still knows in her heart of hearts that something isn't quite right. But when there's no real leadership coming from the patriarchy, then I almost, and I really hope that I don't get too clumsy with this analogy here, but I almost think of it like dogs. And I mean, I've just always had dogs, and so I really get dog behavior. I even worked with dogs for a while. So I'm going to say right away, I'm not saying that women are like dogs. That's not what I'm trying to say. But dogs are, you can have a dog that is extremely well behaved and will always listen to you, and ultimately this is good for the dog because it keeps the dog safe. But to do that, you have to be a leader, and if you're not a leader with your dog, then my last dog, for example, who died back in this past winter, I had to, I figured this out after a few times. When we were out in the woods and he encountered a male dog that he didn't know, he would get aggressive, and until I started to leash him every time that happened, and he was fine because he was just looking, to be reassured. Okay, everything's under control. I've got it. Don't worry about it. And if you don't do that, dogs will say, okay, I got to figure this out, and I got to take control. And they aren't always the best at doing that. So I kind of, and again, I'm sorry about the sort of clumsy analogy, but that's kind of how it is. Women aren't getting the response that they deserve, from good men, and so it's going to go on for at least for a little while. Even though I do suspect they know something's wrong.
I think the root of the issue is that women are starving for strong male leadership. They want patriarchs. They are hungry for patriarchs, and they won't admit it, and they don't know it. If a serious patriarchy came along, they will give in immediately. The closest we have to that today is Islam.
And they seem to be enamored with it.
Exactly.
I pointed that
whole
out.
of the
I pointed
left
that out
seems
earlier,
to just
William.
be enamored with it. It's bizarre.
Yeah, and some, and again, I mean, this is, the phenomenon of why do women always choose the bad boy? And it's not that. They're choosing the guy that is asserting control. And it's
it's I was reading a book on this subject lately. I finished it this week, called Sexual Utopia and Power by F. Roger Devlin. It's a very
I've heard of that.
Have you read it?
No, I
I've only
haven't
heard
read it
him
yet.
interviewed on it. I've not read it. No.
Yeah. The last part about female masochism's pretty interesting, and the example that he gave was the example of Clark Gable's gangster character in one of his old school movies, where he just punched his broad upside the head, and he received fan letters from women begging him to punch them upside the head. That's kind of regardless of how far you want to get with the whole hysteria over domestic violence lately and female masochism, like, I mean, that could get into some pretty dark territory, but it just shows that women are hungry for men who are strong and, you know, are ready to put their foot down. They don't like nice guys. Like the whole cliche about nice guys not getting laid. And we have this image in the West of the white knight basically being like this dildo guy that just like Batman or Superman, that they just keep the bad guy alive only to have him released again to kill more people. You know, it's just a very weak image, while like you have like some anti-heroes depicted in some works of fiction that like as soon as they get an opportunity to kill somebody, like they don't hesitate and they kill them in the most brutal fashion possible. And we have an entire genre of fiction called Star Wars where the bad guys are just bad because they're mean. Okay? That just shows you how far like our culture is.
Well, I don't. So Star Wars, you're saying that it's bad that they're just mean for the sake of being mean?
Yeah, the Empire. It's like the only thing bad about the Empire is that they're just mean. It's like the most childish thing ever. It's kind of like reminds me a little bit of like popular depictions of National Socialist Germany. Like they're just bad because they're mean.
They're just cartoon villains.
Yeah, exactly. And
or let's go full Dr.
like,
Evil.
Yeah, like Hydra in the Marvel universe. I mean, I wish I could watch a Star Wars movie and root for the Empire, because like the rebels are like the most pathetic, degenerate pieces of, excuse my French, shit there is. They are like complete dildos and cucks. I really hate the rebels. I especially hate the new female character in the new Star Wars, the new female protagonist. Like, oh my god, it's like,
well, they're heroes. You know, they're heroes in the reality that was created by Hollywood, and you know, and I'm putting Hollywood in 3 sets of parentheses. You know, this is the reality that they created, which and they created the other reality before that. You know, the white picket fence America, but you know, they in this reality, people like that are heroes, and what's really sad, and it's particularly sad for me. And
well, the sad part is that like Christian families take their kids to go see that movie thinking it's good, wholesome entertainment.
Well, yeah, that's sad, and that's also that, again, that's an argument for, as I was saying earlier, for you know, we need hierarchy. But what's sad is, you know, for me, and I think Ian can probably relate to this too, but you know, as a, you know, I'm a comic artist, and I, you know, I love just a plain and simple, true, you know, good and bad, you know, good and evil storyline in a comic, and you know, everyone knows what that means. You know, it doesn't mean like, you know, oh my God, this you know, multiracial trans whatever woman is a hero because she made sure that everyone gets to use the bathroom. And I mean, that's not the story. You know, that's not what a true, you know, good and evil storyline is. You know,
well, that's a new Star Wars movie 30 years from now.
Well, that's actually now. I mean, it's pretty much now. I mean, that's the reality now. But again, you know, that's really sad, because, or even, you know, another example. I resisted watching this one for a long time, just because I heard of how degenerate it was. But I finally broke down when I don't remember when I was doing something, so I needed something to watch kind of in the background. But Game of Thrones, and
Oh yeah,
I watched it, and I was, and it was like, it was almost cognitive dissonance in a way, because I recognized the classic, you know, no one tells a story like a European, you know, and it's not just that we're good storytellers, but we have traditionally, you know, suffused our stories with our moral sense, and which is pretty strong, and which is it's really simple. You know, it's really a simple matter. You know, you don't rape, you don't steal, you know, you don't. These are very simple things. So anyway, I recognize that in Game of Thrones. You know, I recognized, you know, the characters, and it's an awesome story, but then it's got this, you know, this degeneracy, and it's just totally superfluous. There's just no, it's gratuitous. There's no need for it, and you know, that says two things to me. You know, it says that it says that we've reached a really sad state of affairs, but at the same time, it's hopeful, because there's still, you know, we still have the ability to tell those stories. You look at the directors of these, you know, of these episodes, and you know, they're you know, their last names that end with Berg or Stein or whatever. So you can kind of say, okay, I get it. I know why. But you know, so we do still have the ability to do it. You know, the ability, and this is like, this is why I'm like really happy to see how the alt-right has begun to co-opt like The Hobbit in some of the memes that I'm seeing on Twitter right now. And it's also, you know, I don't know if you guys do this, but I get, you know, as an artist, as someone who's creative, as someone who loves stories, you know, I'm an illustrator. It's not just that I like to make art. I like to tell a story. I crave, you know, some entertainment, and so I've realized that I've developed like a sort of pause filter, you know. So like I'll watch like a TV show on Amazon or something, you know, like Gotham, and it's almost like I kind of tune out when it's like, oh, you know, Jim, what's his name there, the detective, Jim, I can't remember his last name, but you know, oh, they're
Gordon.
What is it?
Jim Gordon.
Yeah. Oh, it's like
Yeah.
when it's like, oh yeah, there's Jim Gordon's girlfriend making out with the woman who's the other detective. Like I kind of tune it out, and the rest, but I do notice the rest of the story, and it's, I don't know, it's just kind of something I've noticed lately that I've developed, and that's, but you know, normies don't have that. They absorb the pause. You know, they you know, like I know it's there. I kind of tune out and just sort of pay attention to the rest of the story, because there is actually some good stuff out there, some good storytelling. It's just, you know, there are certain people who run the entertainment industry, and they make sure that it's just, you know, loaded up with degeneracy, and you kind of have to either completely tune out, and overall I don't ever watch actual television. Like I'll watch stuff online here and there, or you have to kind of develop a filter.
Right.
For me, I kind of get to where like I just expect stuff to be paused, so I just kind of laugh at the predictability of it when it happens.
Yeah.
It's funny. Recently I was listening to the radio, and they were advertising an upcoming episode of, I think it's Law and Order SVU, and like very special episode, and they play a clip like, "You're deporting the only person who can identify the killers," and I laughed out loud when I heard that. Like,
yeah, it's
obviously anti-Trump signaling. But
another interesting thing about it, about the pause in entertainment is, and I noticed this with the recent season of The Man in the High Castle, which I only watched like the first couple of episodes of it. It might have been the last season. I can't remember now. This is my brain fog kicking in here. But
there were only 2 seasons.
Yeah. So, but I can't remember which one this is from. But this is something I've noticed. Like sometimes they, you know, when, you know, again which is, I'm saying that parenthetically 3 times. When they try to show like how horrible and evil and you know, unsavory white culture and white society is, they end up showing like how nice it is. And there was this one scene where the girl who's working to find the man in the high castle and get the films, and she defects from Japan into, she goes to the German embassy in California, and they take her to the East Coast. And so they put her up in this house. It's this really nice house, really nice neighborhood. And it's the Obergruppenführer's wife who's, helping her to get settled in, and she's, getting her established in this nice little house. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go, give me, you know where to find me if you need anything. And she's walking out, and the girl's like, oh, wait a minute. Don't I get a key to the door? And the woman's like, oh, we don't lock our doors around here. And it's like I saw that, and I'm like, yes, this is what white societies are like, and they're trying to make us look, just like just kind of looking down the noses at us. And it's like
I don't know. I mean, don't you think a high trust society is a little bit disturbing? I mean, I gotta be honest. That's kind of creepy.
That's brilliant. A show, isn't that brilliant? A show
so white.
Yeah, isn't that
privilege?
Yeah. And
the next thing you know, she was like in the kitchen, like making muffins, and God, I mean,
yeah.
And her name was like
nice.
Her name was like Becky, and
that's like that. That's like that German magazine that put out that thing about the alternative for Deutschland, and it was a cover of the magazine, and it was like basically, I mean, these people, they looked awesome, like some guy with a gun, and the wife had like a ADF cake, and the kids looked happy, and they were wearing like lederhosen, and there was nothing offensive about the picture. It just looked like a great update on the it was a kind of a retro kind of 50s kind of thing on a lot of the National Socialist art, family and whatever, encouraging art. And you just look at it and you go, yeah, looks good. Like, but these people look at that, and it's horror to them.
And you can understand, like non-whites will be repulsed by that, and that's fine. This is our society. This is how we are, and maybe we're, if we're forced to live among you, maybe we're repulsed by some of your cultural mores. But we're just different. We're all just different from each other.
Are they saying that non-whites would be repulsed? Are you saying non-whites would be repulsed by that, or would whites be repulsed by that?
I think non-whites would. But also indoctrinated whites would also,
and leftists, yeah.
Isn't it funny how like produced by Jews to attack National Socialism may actually help promote National Socialism?
Yeah. Yep, and that's exactly my point.
Yeah, it makes me want to watch the show, to tell you the truth, because I have an Amazon Prime membership.
Same here. That's why I watch it. And the thing is, Sam, like, they're not even necessarily like, it's not even, they're not even targeting National Socialism. See, because to these people, they don't care if it's National Socialism or the Catholic Church or fascism. They don't care. It's white. It's what's white.
Yeah, or even
these are just proxies for whiteness. So they're attacking whiteness. And in this case, I mean, the easiest hobby horse, of course, is Nazis. That's the easiest one.
Yeah, of course. It makes me want to watch the show. Actually, what made me afraid was like they might depict some degeneracy or something. Does that show have a lot of degeneracy?
No, not really. I mean, it's what I like about it is, I mean, again, as an artist, illustrator, and I've kind of gotten to know, some people in the business and in show business, I can kind of appreciate, like, the production designer, like I'm thinking about, the guy who designed the sets and the imagery and I'm picturing him like studying like Spearman's work and I can appreciate that stuff. So that's kind of part of it for me, but it's pretty good storytelling. But again, you just, like everything else, you got to turn on your pause filter. It's like, turn on your pause filter and everything looks a little bit better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I'm gonna start marketing the Luminate Sol patented pause filter, and to make the white nationalist worldview just a little bit less soul crushing.
Well, most of us are already addicted to pornography, so we're used to it.
Yeah, but in my pause filter, it will amplify the pain, the psychic pain that comes from porn. So it'll turn people off, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like antabuse.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. It hurts.
Makes you nauseous.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's funny that we came all the way back to pornography. That's where we started, or
Yes.
sort of.
It's a seminal issue. Pun not intended. God, that was horrible. It's a pivotal issue. It's just so important in our time, and it's a huge part of. It's not only a bellwether about how bad things have gotten and how bad they can get. It's also a symptom of how bad things have gotten, and it's a potent weapon. When you can atomize a people and then tempt them with stuff like this. And again, we were talking about Muslims earlier. I think we've probably all heard E. Michael Jones's example of how in one of the incursions into Gaza, the Israelis they cut out the local programming and they started pumping in porn.
Wow.
It's a weapon, and the Muslims withstood it, of course. I mean, they kind of get it. They're not they have and I don't want any of what I'm saying about Muslims to be misconstrued for respect for them, because I'm not a big fan at all of these people. I just think that because they adhere to who they are, they can better withstand these things than we can. We need to kind of follow that example of not being ashamed of who we are.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to go back to we need to find our strength. I'm working on a piece on how the meek will inherit the earth, and I haven't been doing too much writing on my blog, mostly because I've been kind of busy and also very kind of black-pilled. I also got busy with the attitude stuff, so I just haven't had time. But I'm working on a piece on the. Because to me, meekness is. I think I've probably talked about this before, but.
Dude, I bet you haven't been black-pilled like I've been for the last few weeks.
Oh, really? I've just been recovering. I've just been coming out of it, feeling invigorated a little bit.
Yeah.
Just realizing the fight is still on, and we actually have more space than we had prior to Trump. So whatever Trump's failings are, the dark days of the end of the Obama era, which is a global thing. It's not just. I mean, we had Trudeau here, who obviously has done some things, especially this law about, this anti-Islamophobia law, which is basically just a way of controlling the. This does bring up another question, if I can just throw this out. I'm just so curious as to, why Islam? Why is it so? There's such a weird mixture of fighting it, inviting it, surrendering to it. People, even leftists want to just they want Sharia law or something. I mean, it seems, and the people in power seem to somehow be. I mean, do you think they see it as a better way to control a population?
Well, the way I'm looking at from more of a feminist perspective, in that like there is something within the carnal female nature that wants a dominant man that kind of like a bad boy, and Islam's pretty much that bad boy. That's why feminists spend all this time bashing Christianity, yet they defend Islam. And from like, if you take the alpha beta heuristic, Christianity is more beta and Islam's more alpha. Like, not really, but that's what it would seem like according to the reasoning of like some observers.
Not necessarily, but that is definitely how it's playing out right now. Like we are even, you know, yeah, we're, you know, people who are in evangelical settings, even, you know, in the 80s, who would have been standing up for family values in a big way, are just engaged in social justice efforts.
Yeah, and
100%. Like they don't see Christianity apart from its therapeutic role as a kind of a kind of spiritualized or christened social work.
Yeah, and another thing is that evangelicals have been co-opted by feminism. Even most of their anti-porn propaganda is based on feminist presuppositions about like women having no moral agency, how like every girl in pornography is a victim of trafficking, which of course is not true. At
This
least
is
some women
wave
choose
feminism.
to. Yeah, it's second wave feminism, and
Of course,
it also has to
behind.
do. Yeah, and it also has to do with like the whole so-called rape epidemic and so-called sexual harassment, you know, and evangelicals take the bait every time because they're beta white knights. You know, they don't understand like, I understand that the manosphere is a little crude and misogynistic, but the evangelical church could learn a thing or two from them.
I think it also speaks to just all ethnic groups have strengths and weaknesses, and I think this speaks to something that's kind of both for our ethnicity, which is idealism, and it's been twisted, obviously, in a cultural sense, but you know, we've been there are people who have learned how to take advantage of and to manipulate our idealism. You know, people that know that they can benefit from our you know, our kindness, our willingness to, you know, give people the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, you know, they view that with contempt. You know, it's because they don't get it, and this isn't a matter of, you know, we're better than them, you know, they're worse than us. It's just, I think it's one of our, when we're living amongst ourselves, it's a good thing. You know, this idealism, it helps to raise the, you know, those who are low, and it helps to, you know, humble those who are high, because they're called upon to remember those who are below them, and to, and that's a good thing when it's among whites, because we all get that, and those that don't get it will soon find themselves, you know, ostracized and or in prison or whatever. But I think that's an issue. I think that's possibly one part of the answer, William.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add is that they don't realize that if they are destroying the virtue and the idealism of white people, they're taking out the rug from underneath themselves as well. Because if white people become as savage as like races on average, then they will be exterminated. You know, it's like, don't want to talk about race wars or anything, but if like if white society becomes as debased and savage as Islamic society, then man, the merchants would be in for one hell of a time, you know, and that's happening largely through pornography, through feminism and anti-feminism. The white man's no longer a white knight. It's surely but slowly happening, and it's going to be like as soon as the Civil War breaks out, I mean, there will be it will be catastrophic for everybody.
Well, and that's another characteristic of white people. It's like you push as an outside group. If you push their idealism too far, once that fire is lit underneath us, we get organized in short order, and we harness our creative problem solving wherewithal, and we deal with the issue, and you're right, it is devastating, and it's too bad. It's too bad. Because I mean, no decent person really wants that to happen, Right. And that's part of the problem. That's why we've been exploited, because we have that attitude. Because other groups, they don't have a problem with that happening. Any other group who sort of makes an ethical judgment against whites for the nuclear bomb, for example, all they're doing largely is playing off of our innate penchant for guilt, and because they've all demonstrated that they don't have an issue with this. When you look at the genocides in Rwanda, in Armenia, in Cambodia, China, I mean, these other groups, they don't have the compunction that we have, and
right.
And that's and in our naivete, we don't see that. It's quite a pickle, to quote Ned Flanders.
Yeah, and it's also like we're nicer than the Jews in the Old Testament, because the Jews like wiped out the Canaanites, men, women, and
we did
children.
away with. I mean, Christ did away with the Levitican Deuteronomical laws.
Right. Yeah, and it's also like in the early Christendom, I believe they were far more brutal against their enemies, like especially like the way Charlemagne like took care of the Arians.
Well, I think back then it was more of a kind of what we're going to be getting into soon, which ended in World War II. It was kind of a do or die sort of thing. Like, we forget that now.
All the brutal fascist regimes in Europe, from Franco to name whoever, they were all supported by the Catholic Church. Like, they endorsed, like, they did not have a problem with the violence that's being done against political adversaries. Hello?
Yeah, what you're saying, yeah.
Did I cut off?
I was going to say, I think, can you hear me, Sam?
Yeah, did I cut off?
Nope.
No, we heard you. I think, I guess just
I was just shutting my big mouth because I realized that William hadn't spoken for a while, so I didn't respond.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. I was just talking with my son today about the some people back in the 90s I knew, kind of leftists, were bemoaning the fact that the Canadians that went to fight Franco never got a pension for a war, for being soldiers, for going and fighting in this war. And they were bemoaning the fact that, some of them had been injured or whatever. And they were actually thinking the Canadian government should like give them a pension. I think there was actually a movement at the time to try to get some money for these old dudes these old commies who had gone to fight, because of course, I guess, they're commies. I guess we're commies. We would pay them for fighting fascists or something. It's just so, the sense of entitlement and the sense of being on the right side of history, I guess, was so clear. They just thought,
again, it's just the idealism, the inherent idealism of white people, when combined with the success that they produce with that idealism under you know, clement conditions, you know, i.e. when they're in homogeneous societies where they're not, you know, involved in international adventurism and not allowing too many outside influences, triple parentheses, you know, to meddle in their governance. You know, those two things combined, you know, when they're comfortable economically, and that idealism is just, you know, let out of the bag like a, you know, like a rabid dog or whatever. It's just disaster.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had a good. I mean, these kinds of decays of, you know, they happen. You see
Yeah,
them.
the cycle.
You see them in myths. You see them in stories like I can't remember the names in the Lord of the Ring, where you've got the king that sort of, which king is it that sort of almost looks like he has cataracts? He's sort of a glazed eye, and he's got that sort of wizardy guy, the kind of goth guy whispering in his ear and all the time telling him what to think. I mean, this is that, or, you know, corrupt leaders who don't act in the interest, don't understand that it is, you know, they're calling to act in the interest of the people, which is the ideal. Of course, the cynical say that never happens, but that's just not true. There have been leaders who do rise up, kings even, who, you know, act in the broad interest of the population. But we haven't really, we've not really seen that in the West now for a long time. And this is because of internationalism and globalism. I mean, because of the interests and the financial interests, which are abstracted away from even economy, or certainly from society and community, so that it's just, you know, you end up with people, and it's tempting, you know, for me too, if I think, oh, well, you know, I've got so many years left, should I think about amassing some wealth for my own, you know, because, you know, I should leave something for my family, and my family should, you know, if you look at the future, you know, who is going to survive into the future? Well, only people with means.
But
so
also,
perhaps that's the duty of us. But how do you do that without being, you know, just becoming another corrupt parasite?
Yeah, you can't become a consumer. You have to avoid consumerism.
Well, even engaging in the financial system and the economic investments or whatever, it's so international. But if you do this kind of idealistic kind of investing, community investing, or investing through, you know, what are they called? Credit union or something like this. I mean, you're just never going to really get that far. So it's very tempting to just sort of learn how to play the game, make a bunch of money, and, you know, think about your own. For, you know, at this point, everybody's out for their own.
Right.
Well, whatever era you live in as a Christian, I mean, your soul is what you have to worry about first, and then beyond that, if you're really doing that, then you're probably not going to go too far astray, even in material matters.
Another thing is that one of the things that I'm worried about with marriage is that, like, you kind of have to opt. Like, if you get married and start a family, then you, for the most part, have no choice but to opt into a system, you know, especially if you have a large family and you want to make the type of income where you could support a stay-at-home homeschool wife.
Yeah, probably best to have a family business is probably, I mean, this is very much the tradition of our people. I mean, the idea of going out to work, this is one of the, I think it damages relationships. And we talk, you know, I mean, there is this kind of ideal of the man goes out and he's the breadwinner, and then the wife stays home. But the idea of the two working together to balance their workday and to create, you know, create wealth together, or create whatever prosperity they have, I think that's a far more, that to me is the ideal. And certainly in my own life, when I've lived that way with with women I've been with that has been the happiest times of my life as well.
Right. Yeah,
Like the idea of leaving the home constantly to work is damaging, because you're constantly separated. You have another context. You have other women in that context that make more sense in that context than your wife.
And you're out in that degenerate
you're
world.
constantly tempting. It's constant. There's a constant temptation to live two lives, and a lot of men end up doing that. They end up living two lives. They have the wife at home, and they have whatever it is they do. They have affairs, or they have whatever, and the wife becomes, the woman does become kind of marginalized and simplified. I mean,
And this is what I was referring to when I said that we have to always bear in mind until we've reestablished a sane society, which God willing we'll all be alive to see, but we have to bear in mind that these guys who are bogged down in porn, or these guys who just become obsessed with National Socialism or anime, whatever it is, guys who are on our side but who aren't perhaps doing everything that they can to take care of their own souls, and therefore are struggling in their ability to effectively move things along for us. We have to bear that in mind. People are weak, and absent a strong and comforting, supportive hierarchy, men are weak and they fall, and I am no exception. I'm not trying to look down on anyone, and it's something that, this is one reason that I've always enjoyed Millennial Woes. He's one of the first guys on the alt-right that really just appealed to me, because he seemed to understand that we need to bear in mind that a lot of our brothers and sisters are just, they for whatever reason they don't have the strength or the the intellectual wherewithal to withstand this the ferocious and corrosive destructiveness of the society we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes, yeah, this is the problem with this kind of individualist thing, which Christianity is not. I mean, Buddhism, especially sort of California Buddhism, as was it Evalu who called it California Buddhism, as practiced in the West, is kind of an individualist thing. It's also can become a kind of hedonistic thing. It's about polishing your soul, so you can pick up women, kind of thing. But it's not. It's Christianity is, and my priest constantly reminds us and me of this, that it is, it is by nature, by nature, but by its very nature, it is a communal thing. It's not something you can do on your own. Christianity is not your personal, your private, what's the word? Like your own private spiritual practice, or your own. I mean, certainly there are times of solitude and quiet, and many great Christian saints have spent times in the mountains, but they always come back down. Like, there is no Christianity that is not infused in the body of Christ. And so this idea that we can reform this thing on our own, or just be good on our own, or something like this is ridiculous. And I know that I mean, my own failings are for want of a righteous community, not for want of my own want against my own failings or something. Those are many. They are also many because I don't really have a vibrant, righteous community,
right?
Which I'm part of.
Just remember the story of Lot, and you know, what he did with his 2 daughters, and he was the only righteous man in Sodom and Gomorrah, which shows you how much a evil, wicked society could corrupt and destroy the integrity of even its best citizens, you know. And that's definitely a testament to my life, how like I've failed badly in living the basic Christian life because this society makes it so difficult for me. You know, I don't even know where to start. It gets so bad sometimes that it begins to have a noetic influence on me.
What has little influence on you, Sam?
Noetic? Do you know
Noetic?
what the word noetic means?
Not offhand.
It means basically, noe means your mind. So it basically has an effect on your mind. It has an effect on your sanity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of people are. Honestly, I struggle sometimes feeling like I'm not all there sometimes. Like I wonder what it's doing to me, just being trapped in the struggles I have.
Yeah. It's a very painful thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, this is something that anyone who breaks with the modern orthodoxy has to deal with, and it's you know, under the most, you know, favorable conditions, it's not easy for the average person to live a compartmentalized life, and you know, you can do that in sort of a passive way, which is, I think, what a lot of us did before we, you know, took the, you know, the proverbial red pill. I mean,
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I knew for a while. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I was a race realist for a while, and I just kind of kept it to myself. But you know, once you really, and if you're really trying hard to be a Christian, it's going to happen to you, because you start to understand how important the truth is. You know, and you know, so living this compartmentalized life, it does weigh on you, and it's even more difficult for, I don't know about you, Sam, but I know that myself, Ian, and William we're creatives. You know, we're artistic. I think it's even more difficult for people like us, because
Yeah.
Even in a, you know, in a classic European society, artists were always eccentric. They were always weird. They always had a harder time fitting in, but they had, you know, the supportive structure of a, you know, of a sensible, healthy, homogeneous societies. But right now, it is difficult, and you know, you've struck upon something. This is unspeakably an unspeakably onerous burden for a lot of young men, and I imagine young women also. But
Yeah.
in our movement, you know, this weight of and this does have long-term effects. You know, it does have deleterious effects on, you know, any good physician will tell you that, you know, stress over the long term. I mean, and I've, for years now, you know, I've been dealing with, you know, chronic illness, ME, CFS, and I wonder, you know, like if that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's a, you know, these are things that in the aftermath of you know, the great collapse or whatever, that people will be looking at, and hopefully they'll draw instruction from it. They'll draw lessons from it and be able to sort of look at it and you know, remember, like, you know, a lot of our young men suffered because of this, and older men. But at any rate, I do have to say goodbye for now. And I've really enjoyed the chat this evening, and I appreciate everyone who came to listen to us. And God bless to everyone. Thank you, Ian. And I'll
Yeah,
talk
thanks
to you
for
guys
coming,
soon.
Lumen.
Thank you,
Hands up.
Lumen. This
Lumen.
talk has really, I just want to say that, before you leave, I just want to say that your talk has really helped me a lot, because I've really been suffering badly lately.
Well, this is why we have to be there for each other. This is why we have to. I mean, even outside of chat, outside of the Hangouts, it's because no one, let's face it, no one else is going to be there for us. I mean, and this is why we need to belong to a parish and get to church. But yeah, I you're more than welcome for whatever solace I've offered, and I reciprocate it. I get the same thing. I mean, we have to stay sane somehow.
On a lighter note, you put in the text chat you wrote lol lol.
Yeah, I meant to put laugh out loud.
Yeah, but I put that song in my head that.
It's true. It's true. I'm
in my head like, dang it.
I'm a closet yodeler.
Mr. Trollolo. Yeah.
I'm a reactionary yodeler. Yodel for the white nation. That's the T-shirt.
That's not even yodeling. It's just like gibberish. You've heard that song, right? That video. That like Russian guy or whatever he is.
Oh, is
it's
it
like
the Croatian one? Like,
I think he's Russian. It was like some song from the Soviet era where there's like no actual lyrics. It's just a.
It's not the remove kebab.
It's not the remove kebab one.
No.
That's what I was thinking.
Real quick. See if I can find that video for you. Real quick.
Put that in the show notes.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. God bless.
Good night. God bless.
But,
Was that the
Edward Keel?
Yeah. Did I do the right tune for the remove kebab song?
It sounded.
I don't even know.
close.
Is that that?
Yeah, that's a classic. Like, you could just see the look on the commando's face, like the dead cold stare while he plays the accordion.
Yeah.
That will be remembered for ages.
Here's the video. I linked it to you, and I'll send it to you guys. Hold on, let me. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really annoyingly catchy song. Apparently, the story behind it is that the writer of the song was challenged to write a song with no words, so it's really the backing instrumentation that's more of the draw to it. So there's a lot of flourishes and things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, here we go. All right, anyway, I'll stop this for now. So I'm sure this is very exciting for everybody listening, hearing us talk about it.
Yeah, I've never looked into the. I've never used the apps that are on here very much. There's a screen share app.
What's going on here, Mr. Trollolo? Okay.
There is some way of sharing music over the thing, but I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. Oh,
you can only start moving the host. I think as a host, you have certain privileges and powers.
Somebody in the text chat is talking about Beaker from the Muppets. I felt sorry for that guy. He always seems such a sad sack.
But he didn't know it. No, there was always a bit of terror in his eyes. It's true.
Yeah, Bunsen Honeydew abused him.
I think the biggest problem for Christians is that we've lost this sense of righteous violence and brutality that we used to have.
Well, I don't know about brutality. I mean, like, I don't think we should be brutal. Like, but I mean, we need to be willing to stand and fight when necessary. That's the virtuous thing.
We need to be able to do the type of violence necessary to destroy our enemies that we have. And I mean, if you look at Christian history, I mean, it's the history of Christendom. Like, where do you think the left got all their material attacking Christianity from? How it acted historically? They're mostly telling the truth.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Of course, I mean,
like
back to what we were saying earlier. Oh, go on.
Yeah, ever since World War II, we've became soft. Like, there was never a right-wing movement that was strong after World War II, and we're just beginning to have one right now, and still within the embryonic stage.
Yeah. It's funny. I know that even among, like, right after World War II, like, there were a lot of liberal Republicans, even though people think of them as the conservative party.
Yeah, I think
Thomas Dewey, for example, was a liberal, even though he was a Republican.
Who?
Thomas Dewey, the guy, you know, Dewey defeats Truman. He was the candidate in the 1948 election. Everybody thought he was going to win, but then Truman beat him.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think back then the Republican was more of the liberal party and the Democrats were more of the conservative party.
Well, my understanding is that there was a conservative wing and a liberal wing. Like, I think it was Robert Taft was more of the conservative guy among the Republican Party.
There were always, northern and southern, and they tended to be inverted somehow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Republican Party was started as it was actually started as an abolitionist party, wasn't it?
There certainly was one of their platforms, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody's like tried to ever revive the old parties, like Federalist or whatever.
Yes.
I think some people have. Some kind of LARPy people have.
Yeah. Whatever.
Libertarians.
Yeah.
The Free Soil Party.
Yeah, our problems are not going to be solved by any political party.
I agree.
Like, if anything, we need to get rid of political parties and we need to get rid of the whole system of democracy.
Yeah.
I was just reading something at Countercurrents on Heidegger. I can't remember who the writer was. Maybe it was Greg Johnson. It might have been Greg Johnson. Anyway, and he was saying that Heidegger said that philosophers don't actually change anything. Philosophers are just aware of changes ahead of the curve.
Right.
This was the theory that there's not actually. I'm not sure that I agree with that fully. Like right to the end. But there is a kind of interesting thing about the changes we've seen in the last couple of decades. Well, certainly in the last decade, with reaction of the various forms that it's quite naturally has produced itself. That degeneracy will not be forever. At some point, for whatever reason, people intuitively realize that change is coming and change is necessary. But I think once, whether it be philosophers or religious people, reform within or restitution within religious communities takes place, I think then there is actually a positive influence that does actually make things change. I mean, I think the idea that we're just sort of observers is not make that much sense.
No, I mean,
But I think in the
like,
initial stages, we probably do realize these things
well, I
that
mean,
are just naturally occurring.
I don't think I disagree with Heidegger's premise. Like the Frankfurt School has been pretty proactive in pushing change.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't know about the Frankfurt School.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's sort of like it's always the minority that tips the scale.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know.
Yeah, once
I've been
ideas
thinking
manifest
about-
as policy.
Yeah. Like I've been thinking about the concept of how to be a right-wing revolutionary, because again, I've abandoned the conservative movement. I'm a revolutionary now. And how do you live as a revolutionary? Like you have to fight more of a cultural battle, and I don't know if you would be able to raise a family, because you would be devoting your entire time to fighting for the revolution. You know, all of the revolutionaries, most of them have been single. Like Che Guevara was single. Believe Karl Marx was single.
No, Marx was married.
Oh, was he? Okay, I thought he was like I thought like he had a couple girlfriends and was mostly a deadbeat, living off like.
Well, I think all of that is true, but I think he also had a wife.
Yeah.
Well, I think he had a miserable marriage, is what I remember reading about him.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
He's a miserable human being.
Yeah. I mean, man, I can't imagine being married to a piece of shit like that. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
That was your Armenian.
Yeah. It's a small thing that like I'm gonna talk about my pet peeve about like how Christians have such a aversion to cussing, yet they're so polite and weak, and they don't say anything that needs to be said.
Yeah.
Which is especially true of like the evangelical born again types. Like, I mean, if I cuss like I did during this podcast in a typical Bible study, like I would drive a few people up the wall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but I mean, I don't think that. I guess I've come to a point where I'm like, yeah, it's best to avoid saying certain words, but like, it's not like the worst sin in the world if you say a bad word every once in a while, because there are greater sins.
Right. I think it's necessary to, I don't know, I think it's a necessary way to express your righteous indignation. I don't think the usual like polite Christian words are enough to describe what's going on right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I was muted there.
I never pay attention to the chat, the live chat much.
Yeah, I was trying to respond to what somebody said in there. What Delta was saying.
I suffer from borderline boomerism.
You are a borderline boomer, aren't you?
I'm a borderline boomer, yeah.
Not quite, but you're close.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the cusp, yeah.
It's like I'm kind of on the border of millennials and Gen X.
Yeah. We're both.
Honestly, when on the Daily Show, when they were doing the Gen X posting.
What's that?
Yeah. I said on the Daily Show, they've been doing this Gen X posting thing, and I have to say, I tend to relate to a lot of what they're saying, so I guess I fit in pretty well with that crowd. The Gen
Yeah, I
X
do
crowd.
too. I quite fully understand what they're talking about.
Well, if you're
But-
not a boomer and you're not a millennial, you're definitely a Gen Xer.
Oh, I'm definitely
So-
a Gen Xer. Yeah, and
There's no doubt about you.
whatever that means. But yeah, maybe when
means
when
you're
we
between the boomers.
transcend these ridiculous cultural labels, then we're free.
Mhm.
no longer married to the whatever scraps of appalling culture that have formed our souls. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm gonna have to counter signal your use of meekness there again. I'm a defender of this word meek. To me, meekness is the quiet
It
strength.
means having. Right.
We got to stop seeing meek people as people who are mealy or weak or evasive or whatever, and in any way, sort of pathologically demure or something. Like meekness is only using the strength that is needed for any condition, but having great stores of spiritual strength to draw from. So this is the only way it makes sense when Jesus says the meek will inherit the earth. I mean, you could say, well, you're just meek in this life and you get kind of kicked around and you're kind of mealy and in the end he rewards you or something. But I think it's actually, quiet, calm, persistent, unstoppable strength. And I think when you talk about revolution, I think that's the development of that fundamental spiritual strength, of course, under the tutelage of the master and through the the transformation of the Holy Spirit. But all the same, we can become more than we are, and we can become stronger and consistently so. I mean, I think we spend too much time in Christianity stuck in the conversion state, and we don't allow ourselves to move forward. So we go from being sinners or whatever, doing something wrong and then needing to reform and coming back, but we never really get too far down the road before then we choose sin again. And I've had friends who I mean, a friend of mine once, I said, you're sort of a grace junkie, and he just utterly panicked because he said, oh, I live by grace. But he was just a slave to his vices. He was a faithful Christian in many ways, but he was never growing. He was stuck in this cycle of his own bad habits without any transformation ever. And he just he was literally a grace junkie. He lived at sort of the entry of discipleship forever, that place of acknowledgement of sin and repentance. I mean, I know that's something we will always do, but the idea that we can't grow, I mean, I think we're cutting the Lord short. And if we need to, in this kind of broader movement of reaction, which is, I consider myself a reactionary now rather than, I mean, I hang out in the alt-right, but I'm basically a reactionary. My racial commitments are a subset of that commitment rather than reaction being a way to sort of, work out my racial commitment. I mean, to me, racial differences are just essentially a part of natural law. So it's foolish to pretend they don't exist and to play this kind of weird Marxist game we play, rather than it being kind of the center core of my identity. So yeah, I think if we're going to, I mean, there's a lot of work ahead. Trump is not our guy. We aren't going to we're not going to ride his coattails into a nationalist future of some kind or a reactionary future. So, we've got a lot of work to do, and that work's going to be, not done not accomplished without without developing strong moral character. And I say this as a person who's profoundly flawed. I'm not saying this as somebody who's like, and this is why the need for righteous community moving in that direction to support us is so essential.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's been a very interesting conversation. I think we've touched on a lot of good stuff here. It's interesting to see how it kind of went through different stages.
Yeah, I missed the first, whatever, hour and a half almost, didn't I?
Yeah.
Had to work.
Yep.
Won't say wage cucking. I'm self-employed, but
Yeah.
I did have to work though.
Yeah, I've had to work a lot lately too, so you know, I don't know if I'll be able to do these hangouts as frequently as I used to, but I'm going to try to do them as much as I can.
Yeah, just keep coming.
Yeah, I mean, like, the work I'm doing is kind of like day-to-day stuff, so I never certain like what days I'm going to be working or like week to week kind of thing. So I want to make sure my schedule's open for different things, but yeah. So just because today was a day off, I didn't have to work, so I was like, well, that's a good time to do a hangout then. So I know I'll be free then.
So you guys are on holiday today. The whole country is sort of quiet.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, for the work I normally do, it's not that I got the day off per se. It's just that because a lot of people are celebrating the holidays, they're not doing the kind of stuff that they would need my work for. So there's less demand for the work on this day. So it's just mostly manual labor stuff, but you know.
Yeah, we had last Monday off.
So you have like a Memorial Day in Canada?
Yeah, they call it Victoria Day.
Oh, okay. That's kind of a cool name.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's for Queen Victoria?
Yep, yep.
Victoria, Victoria,
Victoria, Victoria. Yeah, the Kinks.
Great band.
For you, those of you out in Rio, Rhineland.
Rio Rhinelander thing.
That's a Kinks song.
Yeah.
So, have you been to Vancouver lately?
I have not. I have not.
Yeah, supposedly, like now, all the property there is Chinese owned.
Yeah,
I was driving through a rural area the other day. My daughter and I went out and bought an apple tree from a great nursery, and we're just driving along, and there are two old peasant Chinese people working on this kind of somewhat derelict farm that I've seen over the years. And then I realized, you know, somebody bought it, and then they sent their parents or grandparents over to just kind of tend to it because they're buying up. And these are very expensive pieces of property. These are $1 million kind of properties and farms, because the land, the bit of bottom land that's left is very valuable. And I thought, wow, I mean, just everywhere, you know, it's just like, and this is the thing, they either buy it or leave it vacant. In Vancouver, they put a tax on for kind of an absentee owner tax, but it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's nothing. These people have so much money compared to our economy. Somehow it's well, whatever. It's just another fee. Like, they don't care. It's not stopping the problem of foreigners basically destroying the housing market. It's happened in this city where I am too. I mean, basically just every kind of house is worth 800,000 to $1 million something.
Yeah.
There are no houses really you can even find it for 600,000 anymore.
You know, like white nationalists complain about how white people are being replaced, but for the most part, they're being replaced by much better people. Yeah, but there still are people. We definitely need to be reformed, revitalized. Yeah. Because all the, you know, what happens then? I mean, every I don't know, every society goes through these cycles of
prosperity leading to decay, leading to breakdown and needing of a revival of strength.
Right.
But we just don't seem to be able to see it in white society. We're quite willing to be replaced somehow.
Yeah, like even like the loosely monogamous Hispanic cultures seem like Puritanism to like the average white person. Because like
Well,
we've gone like, I don't know if I include myself, but like white people in general have gone so far that like you have to go to Latin America to find a wholesome culture.
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't include yourself? Are you saying that you don't count yourself as white?
It depends. Like, I mean, I do consider Armenians to be European, but when I think of whites, I usually think of Anglo-North Americans, you know? Like, because it's like a different culture in a way. Like sometimes I count myself as white, sometimes I don't, you know? Because I guess it depends.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone is degenerate. I mean, the desire for family and stability does still win out, even in the secular world. I see a lot of people. We've had a bit of a baby boom in this town in the last couple of years.
Right.
White people?
Yeah, and it's typically white people. And you see, and these are women in their, in their 20s that are having kids. So
Oh,
like,
wow.
okay, so what are your choices?
That's
What are your choices? And they're not just having babies on their own. They're married. They got, so what are your choices? This life of just whatever, endless partying, or
even
endless adolescence, or people like the meaning of, these are very, I mean, it can be corrupted, that's for sure, but these are also very deep, obviously deep human longing, or certainly European folk longing.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was going to say, even if they were having it out of wedlock, that's still less degenerate than the average white girl.
You mean?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, they certainly have, I think they're probably more, what's the word? Bipolar, where you have, kind of extreme, kind of degeneracy and sluttiness on both male and female part. And then you also have the kind of Catholic ideal, which is still put forward.
Right.
Certainly, I mean, I'm only judging that based on seeing whatever in culture, whatever media I might see it in. But also poverty tends to be a conservatizing, or at least a traditionalizing kind of, it can at least have a traditionalizing effect. I mean, you're just sort of don't have as much money for degeneracy. Although degeneracy can come pretty cheap these days. These super deadly drugs, these total soul and life and mind and body destroying drugs are just cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that's a problem with like the white community in Appalachia. How like they have easy access to I forgot which drug it was, whether it was crack or heroin.
Or yeah.
Well, it's more the opioid stuff with them, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I think the best thing that could, based on what you said, maybe the best thing that could happen to us is poverty, because like, look at the healthiest white society in the world. It's in Eastern Europe, and Eastern Europe is pretty poor.
Which one would you say is the healthiest?
Out of Eastern Europe.
Well, you said the healthiest white societies in Eastern Europe, which are you singling out a certain one, or are you just saying in general?
Oh, in general, I think generally the Orthodox Eastern European countries are healthier than even the Catholic Eastern European countries like Poland. And, well, certainly, certainly healthier than the Czech Republic, that's for sure.
Do we have other guests wanting to come in?
I think LUE-YEE is trying to get in.
Oh yeah,
Looks like Britain's there too,
yeah.
Let's see, Britton.
and somebody whose icon I don't recognize.
Yeah.
Was that Delta?
I can't see; it's too small.
I got to figure out LUE-YEE's. Hold on, let me see. If I can.
Is this the wrong hangout?
Yeah, sorry, folks. We're all you people watching.
So what's going on with LUE-YEE and Britton?
Hold on a second. I think LUE-YEE finds. All right, hold on a minute. I'll send you guys some invitations here. Just give me a second here. I'm actually getting kind of tired, so I don't want to stay on too much longer. But if a few people want to come on. What? Crap. Sorry. Okay. Invite these people. Seems like people can't ever. I don't know what these invitations, people don't get them or what. Okay, Delta's here. Hey, Delta. And now he's gone. How do you like that?
Hey. Hey. Yeah.
Hey, LUE-YEE.
Yeah. Me
that was my
and
microphone.
LUE-YEE, yeah.
Sorry, my mic was being gay.
Yeah. Me and LUE-YEE have been chatting on Facebook for like the last week or so, every day.
Oh.
So we've really about different stuff, you know, about like Strasserism and capitalism and socialism and I mean.
We're going on this path now.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, and also like we've talked. We shared parts of like we shared details about our personal lives with each other as well. You know, like you know, so we've really got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
I can barely hear you, LUE-YEE. You're very quiet.
In a total non-homo way. Okay, just so you know. Okay.
That was understood.
Wow.
By me.
Wow.
Yeah, I
know
know that
Chinese man like that. Okay, that's real nice.
Asiatics.
Yeah, because you know some people.
I like the Chinese. Chill out.
Yeah, because some people may have their suspicions about why I am talking so much on Facebook to anorexic Chinese man, but you know, it's
pretty edgy.
Okay.
Oh, the edge. It's pretty edgy there.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, I mean, LUE-YEE, whatever you do, stay the hell away from West Hollywood and San Francisco.
Isn't Chinatown in San Francisco though?
It's one part of it.
Oh,
one-
stay away from the Castro district.
I've
like the
always
gay one,
stayed
right?
away from the Castro.
Castro, yeah, I think that's the
I'm so
case.
interested in going to the Castro.
Yeah.
I'd
If
assume
you
that Lee would be
do
in
ever,
Chinatown though, mostly.
yeah. If
When I
you
go
do,
to SF, yeah, it's like for work, or it's Chinatown, or it's like I don't know, museums or something.
right.
Like the museum in Vertigo. Have you been there?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Have you
Oh,
ever
probably
had
not.
any gay guys hit on you?
Yes, I have.
I'm assuming
Like,
Chinese won't take
One of
that
them
too well.
I was a freshman at university, and this homeless guy asked me for change right at the bus stop at night, and then, I mean, I said I don't have any change, right?
what was that?
Oh no, the show. No, I'm just kidding.
It's in their Boxer Rebellion.
So then
Oh,
he's
you
like,
The Boxer Rebellion. That did kill that did kill Christians though. So I'm like,
Sorry, did we interrupt you, Lee?
oh, yeah. So I got hit on by a homeless guy when I was freshman at university.
Wow.
so about filthy faggot. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep the. Let's not
Yeah, I
use
think
words
hit on
that are
by-
gonna.
Well,
Full Steve Anderson.
well, I was
I'm sorry, I'm being
using
edgy.
the SH word a lot on this podcast, so I don't know.
I don't think
Moses-
you'll get. I don't think your chin
Moses
will get
is
showed for
bad,
that, but yeah. What were you saying about Moses?
I was just saying Moses is a bad man.
Oh, yeah,
Mouth
he-
washed out with soap.
Yeah, actually, Moses killed, like, I believe, a lot of his own people. You know that, like, if you read the Bible, I think he killed 1/3 or.
Oy vey, that's the Bible is so evil. It promotes rape and sexism and homophobia.
Yeah, I know.
Stupid, silly leftist. That's God's judgment.
Yeah,
Actually,
I mean-
the number who actually got killed at Mount Sinai was actually comparatively small, because I think a lot of people worship the golden calf and stuff, but I think the number of people who actually got killed was not that high in comparison with the number of people who had actually bowed down to the golden calf.
yeah. It's about maybe the same number as Pinochet killed, maybe.
God killed like let's say like 10 million people. Communism still killed more than God. So is communism more evil than God?
Well,
Or
God's
like the
not
Holocaust
evil.
or something? Oh, according to leftists, he's evil because how could a loving God send people to hell? XD.
I don't like God because he does stuff that I don't like. So even though he's an all-powerful being, I still hate him because, like, I'm totally edgy, man.
Freak you, mom and dad. I'm an atheist.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, have you guys been following the latest fallout between Thunderfoot and Sargon of Akkad?
I've heard about
I
it.
don't follow either of those guys. I think they're both just
Yeah.
kind of arrogant.
Yeah, I don't follow those
Not
guys
fedoras.
either. I've heard of the fallout because you know, the Beckcloth and Matt Forney talked about it.
I have my issues with Forney. I would say economically, if you want to hear I was saying stuff I was commenting earlier, but it's not.
Yeah, Forney like bashes
He's like
socialism all the time.
Well, he's pretty capitalist to the core, which I obviously object to that for my own reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a reactionary, so I believe in traditionalism, not economic systems.
yeah.
Traditional. Well, economically, we still need an economic system. Like obviously, I'm
Well, yeah, but I
traditional,
mean-
but I'm like fascist though on economic stuff and all that.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Ooh, that's a loud creek.
Huh.
Up the creek without
Creek. Up the
Is the creek,
up
is
the
creek
creek
gonna
without
be
a
a meme
fan.
now?
But no fan tonight.
No, it was my chair that was creaking.
If
It
we can
wasn't
find some way
necessary.
if we can find some way to use punctuation around words to symbolize a creek, that can be the sign for Armenians.
Maybe 3 parentheses.
Oh,
That's
That's an
Jewish.
echo. That's not a.
That's
not
an
a creek.
echo.
Maybe the
Well-
maybe those brackets or
Well, the
something.
capitalist I was referring to, Ian, was mostly on Forney's economic views. That's mostly my issue. He calls everything
he's-
socialist. Like, what? Oh, welfare is socialism. I'm like, I was an ex-socialist, so I would know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a fan of socialism.
Or capitalism. I want to. Both are. I said they're wicked
well,
and ungodly. Both are
Yeah,
very wicked.
not having turnpikes is socialist. We have to keep the New Jersey Turnpike and make people pay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, how dare you want to provide good health care for your people? We need to keep that privatized, because my money's.
Exactly.
You
Well,
could read
yeah, I
the
mean-
Bible about First
Yeah.
Timothy, what it says about that.
Yeah, where's my NAP and my child sex slave, yo?
Wow.
Is that in the scripture?
I think Bill Clinton can help you with that.
No, it's making fun of libertarians
Yeah, I know.
because they're all about like the NAP, which is
And caps. That's what anarcho-capitalists are all about. That they're pretty easy to make fun of, though. I
Yeah,
used to make fun of them a lot when I was a leftist.
yeah. I think the difference with ANCAPs is that like if a society want to have a more brutal totalitarian response on drug addiction, they can. If it's what people opt in for. Like it's not necessarily libertarian and traditionalist sense. Like for example, like let's say there's one client city with its services and they have the death penalty if you smoke marijuana. But if that's what people want and if that's what people are willing to pay for, then that could happen under an anarcho-capitalist system.
I'm becoming on drugs. More like Rodrigo Duterte, shoot druggies and drug dealers. More
Yeah.
to drug dealers, not
Yeah,
druggies. Really.
Yeah, that's basically what the guy from Vanguard America was arguing for, that like if in a fascist society, drug traffickers would be shot right on the spot and thrown into a ditch. Like he was talking on Christopher Cantwell's show. Do any of you guys follow Christopher Cantwell?
No. Well, I know Vanguard America is a white nationalist movement.
Yeah. Well, they're white nationalists and fascists. They are like explicitly fascist, while like not every white nationalist movement is explicitly fascist. Like
Yeah, I'm part of it. I know, like the group I'm part of. They're not really ethnically centered. It's more of like the original Italian kind of movement.
yeah.
Anybody want to talk about Christianity?
Well, there's a lot of like I know like the founder is a Catholic. He's Catholic. We have one guy who's a Shia Muslim. Then there's obviously you could say Protestant by the Catholic definition. And but we do have like some Hispanic dudes. I'm obviously mixed. And I'm part of the group. And you have a Muslim, so there's no real like there's no specific. But it is very much an integral nationalist kind of movement.
So it's like the integralists, like in Brazil.
I kind of use that because I've seen people say, "Oh, like you guys are doing civic national." Like, see, civic nationalism is liberal.
Yeah,
It's a liberal form, and it has and it's completely toothless. There's no real identity to it. So like it's more like in the middle. Like there is the group. We're not like totally ethnic. I do recognize, like for example, like the U.S. was founded by Europeans, so we need to keep that. But I'm not going to make that's not the only thing that matters, though.
So, like, you guys are coming from more of a imperial than nationalist perspective.
Imperial, we're still like nationalistic, obviously, but we do reckon. But the point is that like race, we're not like most of these other groups. We're not like Vanguard America, where race is the only emphasis. I know a lot of the members understand that white nationalism, but they just don't. They're not into it themselves.
Right.
If they are like white.
I mean, I'm a white nationalist on paper, but you know, most of the white people are garbage. I don't mind them being replaced by Mexicans and Chinese.
Well, it's funny because I think there was a woman. I think this was in China though. She said something about like going back to traditional like values. Like a bunch of people like in the comments flipped out. Go back to the Ming Dynasty and all that.
Yeah.
I would probably like to think that Mr. Yee here would probably say that that wouldn't be so bad. Can y'all hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Are you talking to LUE-YEE?
Yeah.
You there, LUE-YEE?
Yeah, I just dropped out and I came back in.
Oh, yeah.
He said something about going back to the Ming Dynasty. Would that be a good thing?
To the what?
The Ming Dynasty.
The Ming Dynasty. No.
How come?
I'm not exactly keen on bringing back foot binding and stuff. Okay, well, obviously that's not the essence of the Ming Dynasty, but
That's been around for a long time in China, I've heard.
In general, I don't think the Chinese are interested in any kind of revivalism. Like, I think in Europe, people like to revive dynasties and stuff, and that's just not the Chinese way.
Yeah, it's like, as far as it's more of like they've kind of moved on from the dynasties ever since 1912.
Well, the dynasties are pretty much all gone now, so there's really nothing to revive anymore.
It's what's left is like either rebuild the Chinese Republic or you keep communism, or like a shell of what's
some people
communism.
still have nostalgia and stuff like that, but for the Chinese, it's like, I don't know. Once the dynasty's gone, it's gone. You know, whoever
You make a new one or whatever.
Makes a new dynasty. You don't. People don't have these. Yeah, I don't know. Like after a few decades.
Was the Ming Dynasty the last dynasty that was in
That
power?
That was the Manchu dynasty. I can't pronounce the freaking name. I know what it is.
Okay, yeah. Is there a monarchist movement in China to bring back the emperor?
The thing is, that's just not like. I mean, it's been. The Qing dynasty fell in 1911, and
Oh, it was 12. I know. I heard it was 12 in that case.
so the Republic
1912.
of China was. I mean, it sort of. Yeah, the Xinhai Revolution was that began on the 10th of October
1911.
1911. So I guess there was some fighting until 1912, and then.
It was like February or something like that. Then the Republic.
Yeah.
So you got Sen and all that.
Right. So at that time, it was just multiple provinces declaring independence from the Qing dynasty.
I know, like Outer Mongolia became its own, and then that was like the Khanate, and then eventually it became a Soviet satellite state. And they're in the 20s.
Mongolia supposedly became its own as a puppet of the Russians. So that's not. Yeah, Mongolia is just not really one of those places that stays independent between China and Russia.
Well, I know, like originally, like it was originally like a monarchy. Then, like with the Russian Revolution, like it got socialist influence, and it became a socialist country. Up until like up until February of 1992, where it became a democratic state.
Basically, the Russians had been trying to peel Mongolia off China since I don't know, the 19th century.
Well, they got Outer Manchuria. I know that much.
Yeah, they did get that. I think we'll be nice to the Russians and let them keep Vladivostok.
Yeah, Outer Manchuria, they can keep that now because it's pretty much Russianized, I think, now.
Yeah, that's too bad.
You're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Well, they got Tuva, I know too. They got another little.
Yes, Tuva was still claimed as part of China in the Constitution of the Republic of China.
They're more of like a Turkic people, I've noticed, though. But they have a lot of like similarities with Mongols.
Mongols, yeah.
You might have covered this before, Louis, but when were the first Christians in China? Does it go back to early days, like early days of Christianity?
At least by the early 7th century.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard maybe these are just romantic stories that the the Taoists were the first to be sort of interested. Is this just some kind of folklore of trying to unite these? We had a Chinese priest that what did he write? He wrote a little book called
It's possible, but I don't.
Lao Tzu and Gandhi, Friends of Jesus. That was his. Anyway.
It's so the record we have of the so-called Nestorians in China from the 7th century. There's a stela in I think Xi'an or something like that from the early Tang Dynasty, and that it talks about the luminous religion, which is Christianity, and I guess it describes some things in kind of Taoist or sometimes Buddhist sounding terms, but not particularly. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just trying to translate.
Luminous? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Make it intelligible in terms of Chinese philosophy.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of tradition of Christians got in there, and did the what was
so those the Church of the East? That's what the Assyrians have. People call them historians, but okay. But yeah, so people call them historians. I don't know historically how, like, how much they, to what extent, if at all, they adhered to
The Nicene doctrines.
the kind of doctrine that was condemned at Ephesus. But yeah, that was the group of Christians that were there.
Mm-hmm. What are you enjoying there, Britton?
Oh, just some culinary race tradering. Got some
Culinary race tradering?
Yeah, got some Tostitos jalapeno chips and
jalapeno racist.
Britton, I just want to say,
brought to you by Miss Renfro's habanero salsa.
Hey, as long as you call
That's
them
why you gotta
jalapeno, not a race trader.
That's probably copyrighted or something.
by the way, Britton, nice beard.
Thank you.
How long have you been growing it out for?
I think months at this point. I'm not sure. I'll have to track.
Yeah.
It's not quite as sweet as Moses' beard.
Yeah. Actually, I don't have a beard right now.
Yeah, see,
I had a pretty good beard a while ago. Maybe William saw my last
there's LUE-YEE. No hair whatsoever. Yeah, I'm actually going for the I'm going for the look of like your profile picture actually. So
okay,
going for that Moses look.
Yeah. I mean, nobody would ever suspect you of being a Nazi with a beard, because I don't know too many Nazis that had beards.
I mean, I don't know too many Nazis that don't have beards, but then again, I don't know too many Nazis.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Aside from myself, obviously.
I guess I'm suspect because I don't...
Shut it down, oy vey.
Yeah, I don't know any Nazis either. It's, I mean,
not having a beard, that's a sign of a Nazi.
Yeah.
Well, I have a beard.
Yeah.
Well, I have a beard.
I can't really
But
grow
I
a beard,
get-
so I guess I can't be a Nazi.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess ideologically though, I mean, I'm still allied with Nazis. DD.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not a Nazi. I've never been a Nazi.
It's funny how like
Except if you're pro, it looks like
Oh
an
wait, okay,
astrophag.
okay. So we got it all confused. I just realized we got it all confused. The beard, it's good to go. It's when you shave your head. That's the key right there.
no, that's actually like that's a new thing that did not like exist like during the
Yeah, I know.
during the Nazi period. Yeah, that's kind of like the skinhead culture.
Yeah, it
They're
is.
complete degenerates. They're
Yeah,
not
it is.
thing like the original National Socialists.
Yeah, I know.
Like they tattoo their foreheads with swastikas and like you know they have girlfriends that like just like or complete sluts that like just fell for them because they're bad boys.
Yeah.
It's a completely degenerate culture. It's just like hip hop for white people.
Oh yeah, that's essentially what it is.
That's an ideology.
I've always said that skinheads are essentially like the they're essentially your average Negroid street gang. Same kind of degeneracy. You got drug dealers. They might as well not even I don't know exist. That would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we should like show them.
Yeah.
Like they would be the first ones to get showed.
Yep. But yeah. Anyway, I didn't come here for politics talk. Surprisingly enough, though, that is definitely on the table for me. Actually, something that I want to talk about was my messianic friend ended up stopped being a messianic.
Oh, yeah, like that's never happened before.
Oh no.
Let me guess, an atheist.
No.
He became a full-on merchant.
You got it, Sam.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I've heard that story like millions, not millions, but I've heard that story many times before.
Messianic Judaism is just a gateway drug to actual Judaism.
Yeah, exactly. It's not true Christianity. Even like Messianic Judaism itself is the Judaizer heresy. Like Paul trashed that whole thing in the epistle to the Galatians.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Judaizers, actually, it should still be on my Snapchat. Actually, I was in church and
I became a Jew.
Oh yeah.
What? We're all the same. How dare you?
No, it's like when he was like because he didn't tell me straight up what it was at first because he was like, I've got to tell you something big. I'm like, okay, and we started talking. I thought he just converted to the whole Arian heresy kind of deal, where it was like denying the divinity of Christ and whatnot. But like the
that's still pretty bad.
It is still pretty bad. No. But as he explained and continued on further and further into what was going on, to my horror, I realized he's not an Arian heretic. He's just a Jew now.
He's a Jew. Oh, and I know Lutherans on Jews.
Wait, so this guy is what? He's born a Gentile. He became a Messianic and
born a Gentile. Supposedly, it's called something else called Hebrew roots.
Oh God, I've heard of the Hebrew roots. That's a massive heresy.
Yeah. So, and speaking of stuff about Hebrew roots, let's see if I can figure out. There we go.
White Hebrew Israelites.
So they let him.
Bless Israel, and God will curse those who curse.
Give me Jeremiah chapter 4.
Bless those who bless Israel, and God will curse those who curse Israel. Did you hear that? I will bless those who bless Israel.
Yep.
Wonderful little sermon.
Bless those who bless Israel, curse those who curse Israel. I can hear it.
Sounds like a normal John Hagee sermon.
Dude, I was in this church. It was like
I grew up on that stuff. Yeah.
Sounds like my fan.
Church. God, you know, God have mercy on me for going to a Baptist church, but I went to a Baptist church because I had some friends there. But my goodness, that guy beat that dead horse over and over again. I swear it was like 4, maybe 5 times he like actually brought that up in the sermon.
Wow.
And then he was like, and I do believe that the Jews and Gentiles are not the same. The Jews aren't Gentiles, and the Gentiles aren't Jews.
Oh, duh.
No, no shit. But
course.
at the same time, yeah. But he was using it to push a narrative, and so I just brought up Galatians for him. You know, there's neither man, nor woman, nor Jew nor Grecan nor Jew.
Jew nor Greek. We're all in Christ. We're all one. So what's the point there?
Yeah. So why are you pushing that stuff that goes directly against Scripture? Yeah.
Because I 1000% support Israel.
That's what it was. It was a straight
at
up.
the same time, they're all gonna say, you know, that men and women have the same status before God, but God forbid that that Jews and Gentiles have the same status before God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, we have to keep the Jews separate and above us. That's what we have to do as Gentiles.
Well, basically,
Yeah.
you're saying so Britton, you're saying we have to cuck.
Yes, for
Yeah,
Israel.
come
We
on,
have
man.
to
Still
come
for
for
Israel.
because Israel is God. The Israelis are God's chosen people.
Cockiness is next to godliness.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's like my mom or anyone in my family heard that, they'd probably kill me. If they heard me say something like that, they'd be like, they'd flip out.
Yeah.
That's good that your parents don't subscribe to cuckoldry.
No, they don't. But on that level, you can say they're cucks. But
Oh,
maybe on the Israel stuff, they'd kind of be like around this stuff, I have to tiptoe. Like I even think like the Judaism is wrong. I have to like very much tiptoe around.
just bring
that
up Scripture. They're
A bad
they
influence.
believe in the infallibility of Scripture, correct?
Yeah, so I look, I'm going, here's
All
the
right.
Scripture then.
Bring up, just have everything in a row, straight up. Be like, here's what it says they're the synagogue of Satan. Here's where it says, that there's no special difference between us and them. It's Galatians. But
Yeah.
just go down the list. Go down the list and destroy every bit of faith they have in Israel. Not to mention bring up Proverbs 145, I believe. Don't
Also,
put your faith in princes nor their sons.
Pharisees consistently.
Yeah, and don't put your faith in men. No, don't put your faith in princes, nor their children. I believe it goes, because essentially they're all the same. At the very least, they'll all die.
Wait, hold up.
Well, I've heard of to be careful because you don't want to get into that anti-Semitism where I'm blaming all Jews. I'm not blaming all Jews here. I'm picking out a couple and going, okay. There's Jews who obviously get saved, all right? So I'm not
I'm blaming most
going to be a
Jews for
jerk.
being-
It is also scriptural that Jews do not have to believe in Jesus. They are saved because they were God's chosen
Well, actually,
people.
funny thing, my family doesn't believe that. They actually don't believe that. Yeah, they know. They recognize that, like, they don't believe in Christ, and they kind of like scratch their head, like, you kind of do.
Yeah, they do believe in him. They killed him.
John Hagee believes that, which he's obviously an idiot.
Who's John Hagee?
You don't know John Hagee? Oh, the biggest Israel shill there ever could be.
Sounds like my kind of preacher.
Well, I'm saying he's a shill for Israel. He's a huge shill for Israel.
Growing up watching TVN, I used to like John Hagee a lot because he spoke with a type of authority that other preachers did not speak with, because all the other preachers were like
soy latte, whatever.
Or I'm Joe Osteen.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
There
I
are
don't know.
fuck that guy.
more way to get. There's more than one way to get to heaven, people. And let me tell
Did he
you.
actually say that? Oh man, it's pretty paused.
No man comes to the Father except through me, or except unless we make an exception for you.
Yeah.
You okay, Louis? You look kind of tired.
No, I'm. Yeah,
No, he
I
just
mean,
can't handle all this heresy at once.
What?
What's wrong, Louis?
Too much heresy. Too much heresy.
Too much
And
heresy.
I drove
Me
back
here.
this weekend, so I'm
You know,
tired.
On the subject of Jewish Christians, I actually went to school with some. I actually went to a Christian school with some people who were Jewish, and I guess they were Christians, but like they also did do Jewish stuff, like have like bar mitzvahs and things like that. So it's kind of a weird thing. Like I didn't really know what to.
Infiltrator.
Yeah, I wonder what those people are doing now.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if bar mitzvahs are even in the Bible, in the Old Testament. It's something that's like later added on.
well, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a cultural thing, really.
Yeah. Like a lot of like the modern Jewish practices, like wearing yarmulke and all that stuff, it's post Old Testament. It's mostly,
Right.
I believe it's mostly from the Talmud and the Mishnah.
Shut it down, oy vey, anti-Semite.
Well, most Christian practices post New Testament. So
True.
I mean, traditions form and carry on. So
If it's just we was David, that's fine.
Yeah. Actually, David, if David came back today, he would smack the rabbis and like the average Jew on the street for being such a sorry, I can't use like the slur word for gay people, but that's the word I want to use.
Judgment, so.
What?
The Bible word's sodomites.
Yeah, for being such sodomites. Yeah, actually, a lot of them literally are.
Yeah, I was saying that.
They'd probably kill King David if he showed back up.
how come
Gomorrah
always gets looked over?
Actually, no, because like they're such beta pussies that like
Yeah,
they
David would
couldn't
wreck that
even.
shit.
Yeah, David would totally wreck their shit. You know.
Oh, watch if King or Solomon, someone like David or Solomon saw someone like Jared Kushner, but
yeah,
disdain.
I mean,
how come
like,
Gomorrah always gets overlooked for its degeneracy? It's there, trying to be noticed, and everybody just goes straight to Sodom.
You
I
Gomorrah.
always thought that sodomy was
Okay.
What's that?
No, wait. Gomorrah is like, it's like the, what do you call it? The Baton Rouge or the Reno to Sodom. Las Vegas, yeah.
Or New Orleans.
That's a meme my son and I always joke around about. The Gomorrahites are kind of like, yeah, I'm super degenerate. Yeah. What?
Sodom is just worse, so everyone pays attention to it.
I think
it just has better. It just has a better. It's just linguistically more simplistic, I guess, and easier to. Yeah.
I think Gomorrah just had the straight degeneracy, like birth control pills.
Probably primitive abortions.
Oh yeah.
So Gomorrah is basically like Canada to the U.S.
I don't know.
Yeah.
In some ways,
Gomorrah is
in some ways, Canada's worse than America.
Gomorrah is Britain's the Gomorrah to the Sodom, which is Sweden.
Yeah.
No, Britain is Ireland.
Yeah.
Ireland is Britain's Gomorrah.
And you have New Zealand for Australia.
Australia, they don't have like surprisingly they don't have sodomite marriage yet. Still, the Aussie,
I think they have it in New Zealand though.
Yeah, they do.
I think I got a good one. Sodom is Grindr. Gomorrah is Tinder.
Ha!
I have Tinder.
You do?
Oh,
Wait, Lou,
Yeah, the real
are
thing.
you,
Flush out the
Lou,
Gomorrahite.
Lou,
I
are you,
just go on Tinder and swipe left all the time.
Are you
Yeah.
from Gomorrah? Are you from
Just-
Gomorrah,
I think,
bro?
Lou's just looking for concubines on Tinder. You know, we've actually talked a lot about concubinage on Instant Messenger. He's not really opposed to it.
I'm not.
Do
What
you
did
even
you say?
Gomorrah,
It's the
bro?
freaking gooks.
The goops! So, wait, what
I thought
about
we'd be the Kinks,
concubines?
actually.
Okay. I mean, if it's going to cause a brother to stumble, I won't take concubines, but otherwise,
No. What
concubines.
about concubines?
what?
I got some hot OC right here.
Nice Tostitos, Britton.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so we got some habanero sauce. I put 2 limes in there. Woo!
So I got some OC. Pedophile YouTubers exposed, says a tranny. Base tranny, I guess. XD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you seriously.
Whoa.
What about Taiwan and China? Is Taiwan like the?
Oh, Taiwan is garbage.
It's like the more positive.
Yeah, Taiwan's totally bourgeois. Like Lou.
Okay,
I'm like,
so one
I'm
of
literally like, what the heck?
one
I
of
like
my
mainland China now.
Marxist-Leninist friends was just like he said he sent me a message with a link to this thing about like Taiwan being expected to pass gay marriage legislation, and then the next message he sent was a commie poster of a commie poster that said in Chinese, "We must liberate Taiwan."
Ironic.
Yeah.
Well, Chairman Mao said that. Mao Zedong said that homosexuality was a bourgeois pastime. So.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah,
That's
well, it
definitely
is.
true
It is.
because I mean, homosexuality in its current form flourished in capitalistic societies. It didn't flourish under communism.
They actively removed it if it popped up.
Yeah, exactly.
As any sensible people would.
Actually, in the Soviet Union, originally they tried to do the whole free love thing that we did over here in the 60s, but they quickly got rid of it. You saw how it was destroying their society.
Lenin was definitely not a fan of free love because there was. I quoted something he wrote to someone on my blog. Basically, yeah, he said, "What do you mean by this? Free love is not a proletarian demand; it's a bourgeois demand."
Why did it pop up in capitalist societies?
All right, I'm back. Sorry, you caught me during my feeding frenzy.
Yeah, you were sitting in the back. We saw you standing in the background, and your picture would pop up because you were making noise.
You know, I want to tell like a lot of pro-capitalist like right wingers. I'm like, well, if the sodomites know that that's like cultural Marxism, how come this all popped up in a capitalist country? Drum roll.
Well, I guess they paid for it or something, but like at least in China, some of the degeneracy was seems to have been funded by
Westerners.
Weak in China, but
Or probably by Westerners now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is I read somewhere that that essentially a lot of the post-war degeneracy in America was essentially, and what it's kind of evolved into was Russia was essentially funding all these, they were essentially sending college professors over there, and we all know who the Soviets really were. But anyway, so they sent all these professors over there through various means or funded them, gave them incentives to teach certain curriculum. kind of to accelerate the decline of America. And essentially the liberalism that we have today is essentially like the 20-year-old dead hand of communism, or the 30-year-old dead hand of communism, just slapping us in the dick or face.
Liberalism has always been degenerate.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys,
Even when the Constitution was written.
Yep. Separation
It
of
was-
church and state. Well, it's not in the
That's where it
Constitution.
was cucked. That's where it was cucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no separation.
Well, it never even said separation of church
Well, the
and state.
Constitution did not say that. That's true. That was in Jefferson's correspondence. But
Yeah, and now the leftist secularists. The minute you mentioned the praying in school, you're a theocrat. You want to be like Iran or something like that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I'm
but
like, oh,
I'd be
God, that would be
I'm
a
not
lot.
even gonna deny that. Yeah, I do.
Than what
yeah,
they-
but they have no problem with Muslims praying in school. So like,
Oh, they have no problem
Which
with,
is-
with naked men walking in front of little girls.
yeah.
Or
well,
little
especially
boys.
little boys. Yeah.
Or both.
actually, we were talking about nudity earlier, and how in some ways it's our views of nudity are a perversion of the proper view of the human body. Remember that, William? You were there.
Not-
Remember that, Sam?
Now it's just fat
Yeah,
material.
yeah.
Now people just sit and whack to it.
Yeah,
My
but
dick.
it's not really supposed to be that way.
My dick.
All right. Well, line with us. This one's NSFW. It's a shame. It was so good before all these fascists came in.
It was quite
Oy
civilized.
This isn't the Fascist Hangout, folks. Do remember that. It's the
yeah,
Christian
this
Hangout.
is supposed to be a Christian hangout.
Yeah. We have a communist with us here today.
Who's the?
Oh, who?
Wait, how am I a communist?
LUE-YEE.
Yeah. A Strasserite.
I'm a Nazbo.
Oh, okay.
I'm a
Chinese
straight
national.
crank.
I thought you were talking when you said Strasser. I was talking about me. I was like, you better correct yourself, my dude.
We all know Cody's a Strasserite.
Cody.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on that. dude.
What the red fascist is what he calls
Oh,
himself
yeah.
now.
Yeah, he wants to get on. So he wants to get on these hangouts. By the way.
Wait, is
Remember
he,
he
I
asked me a
think
long
he's
time
Mormon.
ago. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I did.
Mormon.
He's a Mormon.
Oh, heretic.
Well, he never contacted
Well,
me
we
directly
had
about it.
Ayla. You guys had Ayla on a long
Yeah,
time
she's the
ago.
only
and
Mormon
she-
we ever had on. And that was when we
Yeah.
were first starting out. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not. Again, I don't want these to turn into discussions of fascism because, frankly, I'm not interested in that topic. I want to talk more about cultural ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's it.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the whole, hey, my friend turned into a Jew, and then, oh yeah, here's the cream, the whipped cream and little cherry on top. So after he converted to Karaite Judaism, thank goodness he didn't go for Hasidic, or maybe that would have been better. Maybe then I could just be like, oh yeah, so
Yeah, I don't know.
just keep my kid away from him for the first 8 days, and we'll be good. But no, after he told me that he became a Karaite Jew, he actually apostatized another guy, a friend of mine who was a Christian, and yeah, he ended up convincing him that Christ was not the Messiah. So there's that.
Well,
That was
yeah, I mean,
fun.
E. Michael Jones talks about the Jews. He says, really, what makes Jews Jews is that they reject Christ. That's like their identity, is that they reject Christ. So so that's why, they're always, that's why it's just in their makeup to push against Christian societies, because that's just what they do. It's part of, that's just the basis of their identity.
So does that make Richard Dawkins a Jew?
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask E. Michael Jones, but I mean,
Well, he is at least a spiritual Jew.
Yep.
I'm a cultural Christian, yeah, but
Cultural
You're a cultural
I've heard
Christian,
it.
but you're a spiritual Jew.
exactly, there you go.
So that means Richard Spencer is a spiritual Jew then, because he
Yeah, he is.
identifies as a cultural Jew.
Wait.
I mean,
He said homosexuality was
It's the
anti-homophobia was
last
Jewish.
stab of implicit white identity.
Yeah, I'd forget that you're Jewish.
Alright,
Okay, I'm sorry.
you guys, I'm a cultural Christian, so let's hit up the gay district. Come on, guys, come on, boys.
I'm in the Prague's vibrant gay scene. I'm totally a woman.
Wasn't that
gosh?
Is that
Oh, I
the
like
Watson?
Joseph Watson.
Yeah.
Hey, William, you have to leave now?
Yeah, I should feed the kids.
Yeah, thanks
Right.
for leaving the sinking ship.
I gotta go into pedophile YouTuber both because I'm totally a woman.
Hey, you know what?
You can
Hey,
always
Ian?
pull the plug any minute.
Hold on. What is it,
Hey,
Britton?
Ian. Okay, so I just gotta say, I'm glad I'm not the one that drove this Titanic into the iceberg. I just gotta say, I'm so happy that I'm the one actually talking about, Christianity now. It's not me that's disrupting it. I'm so happy. This is the
What'd I
first
do?
time.
Oy
It's the
vey.
first time.
Yo, I'm the host, so I'm the bad guy. I'm the captain.
We got fash cucked.
Yeah.
Hey, stop.
No, it's like you know that
Bunch
you,
of
you remember
loudmouth Nazis coming
Yeah,
in.
you were the project manager.
What, you remember that whole thing, that German airline where the guy got suicidal and drove it into the cliff.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Didn't he
they
convert to Islam?
locked, Ian, they've locked you out of the cabin. They're flying this plane straight into the ground.
Let me in.
Straight into the depths of hell.
Oh man.
Well, yeah, anyway, thanks for coming,
right to the
William.
depths of
Good to have you with us.
implicit white
Glad to be
identity.
here. I'll be back again.
Have a good night. I don't want to go on too much longer because I'm getting kind of tired. I've been doing this for almost 4 hours.
Night, lads.
Oh jeez.
We can wrap up soon. All right.
How long has this been going on so far?
I missed the first hour because I was wage cucked. So
7 p.m. Eastern. So
Oh yeah,
We're
I
doing almost-
never.
I
I
guess
got
it was
the
more
invite.
like 7:07 or something like that. But
Yeah, I got the invite. I never got the follow up though.
Yeah. Me too.
like, I sent out the initial invite. I don't know what's with the system. Sometimes people just don't get the invites. So yeah, I mean, I was sitting there waiting for somebody to show up, and finally, I sent Bill Marchant a DM on Twitter, and I said, we have the hangout going if you wanted to join, because he had asked me about when the next one was. So he was here for about 45 minutes.
Twitter, so don't send me messages on Twitter.
Say again.
You can send me messages. I just can't reply.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you call it? I get notifications on my phone when you text these old Hangout chats. So know that. So if
should we actually make like a Discord or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. Let's do
Oh
it.
yeah.
I gotta
For
say,
sure.
guys, like, I know, just to talk about like fascism or whatever. I mean, I don't, like I was saying, I don't want that to be the primary topic of these discussions. 'Cause I'd like to focus more on Christian things and like cultural things. So
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, if any of you guys ever wanted to start a hangout to do that kind of stuff, I mean, they're not that hard to host. I mean, like once you know what you're doing, it's pretty simple to just set them up. So I mean,
Yeah, it is.
like I don't want it to be like everyone's waiting for me to start one just so they can talk about fascism, because you guys have
My profile picture is a picture of the original fascist leader.
he was actually God's, but he was working directly under God though.
Oh yeah, because fascism is pretty much the Bible applied to government.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're a racist. You evil Christian. You're a homophobe. Gotta go to jail. Oi, bro.
Yeah.
Boy, bro, you gotta go to jail.
Yeah,
That's
well,
homophobic.
that's the one thing that R. Scott Clark is correct about theonomy being fascism. He's 100% right.
Who's R. Scott
Because
Clark?
theonomy is based on the Bible, and because theonomy is fascist, therefore fascism is biblical.
We was Moses and she.
I think monarchy is closer to the Bible, actually. But
Yeah, me too, actually.
Oh yeah,
Why not?
true.
Why not?
Well,
Well, I mean, the fascist regimes of
Okay, so let's listen here, guys.
time
I was in a monarchy, but that's for another day.
was more monarchical than. Yeah, it was monarchy without the without the what's
Hierarchy.
the word?
Yeah, until
without the-
1943, though. Then it became, in northern Italy, it became a Republican government, which I'm more for that, being an American and all that, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
here it is. God's system of government is monarchy, and you're living in God's empire, and Christ is king, my dude.
Amen.
No kings but Christ.
Exactly.
that's the only Todd Lewis is saying. I am a monarchist. I believe Jesus is my king, but on earth I'm not a monarchist.
Well, I'm both
yeah.
because he's the king of kings. And there can be kings under the king of kings.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
I'd rather have like
Point.
a Caesar kind of type.
And the way I see it, because any monarchy that's worthwhile, I mean, at least in the West, any monarchy that's was worthwhile has been pretty much dismantled in its entirety. So
The Romanovs,
just all of it. So I see, for me, the reason why I'm a National Socialist or a fascist or whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to try not to keep this too long on this subject, but the reason why I'm that is really for this reason alone, and that is that fascism or Nazism and monarchy are essentially, you can easily create a monarchy based on National Socialism or fascism. It's essentially the foundation for monarchy. What's up,
Sam, what are you doing? You're making a lot of noise there.
Am I?
Yeah, keep popping up.
He's
Oh
speaking Armenian.
no.
But yeah, I mean,
I totally agree with Britton's point. You know, you could National Socialism or fascism does eventually. It's the only system, in my opinion, that would lead to a reconstruction of the pre-Enlightenment European monarchical system.
and monarchy, and also monarchy is what completes it. It completes fascism as well. It's the only system in which fascism can survive, because you look at every other fascist nation. Spain is a great example. The old fart up and died, and then the power went back to the parliament or whatever the hell, and then
the king kind of.
It essentially went to shit because the guy who was in charge and the guy that that he chose, I guess, they all died or whatever of old age because they were all geriatric.
With Franco, it's more of his main guy got assassinated.
There's
by
that too.
Leftists.
But if the monarchist system was there throughout, there would have been backups. In monarchy there's always a backup from the very top, from the king all the way down to the counts and dukes, all the way down to the last knight. If a knight survives, then the monarchy survives. Because technically he's in line of succession.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see that argument as far as like if you think fascism is like a transitional step, but I mean, I don't call myself any of those things because I don't. That would seem to imply that that's the end goal, which it's not for me. So
yeah.
From my perspective, it's yeah. Okay. From my perspective, I see fascism or National Socialism as a transition into like a true meritocracy, like the type of like rule by Ubermensch that like people like Molbug talk about, like how everything is like that pure meritocracy. and you can't have a pure meritocracy under communism or capitalism, because
You can't.
no, neither of those systems are meritocratic. Communism, we all know, is not. Capitalism, people think it's meritocratic, but it's not, because capitalism's all about rewarding the people with the most money. And it doesn't matter how talented you are or talentless you are. If you have money or if you don't have money, that's the only thing that matters under a capitalist system, which means that like you're
confused that that having or acquiring or just obtaining money in one way or another, that is kind of a form of merit to a lot of these people. Like, oh, hey, I've acquired capital. I'm awesome. Am I awesome? Therefore, I deserve the power that I got.
Yeah, and it's also, I think capitalism is what this enculturation of capitalism is what instilled this ultra hypergamy that we have to deal with when it comes to our women in the West. Like my sister oftentimes talks about marrying a rich Jew, used to talk a lot about marrying a rich Jew or whatever, because for her it was all about money.
Yeah, you should advise her against that. I'm not going to go into the racial aspect of it, but for the fact of just look at what's happened to every Gentile wife for every Hollywood Jew.
Yeah,
what's his name?
I mean,
the guy who played Willy Wonka, he went through like 3 blonde-haired, blue-eyed dames.
But he had Gilda Radner, didn't he? She's Jewish.
That was his last. That was his final marriage.
No, but like that's not an issue anymore now, because she's already married, and if
is her husband a Christian?
She has a kid. Yeah, she married a Christian, and she has a baby. So like if if there's ever a divorce, like I don't know, like what her chances on like the market would be, if you know what I mean.
Checkmate.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's been checkmate.
Yeah.
And she's in like her late 30s now, I think, or mid 30s.
Well, I had something to say, but I can say it after we go off the air.
You don't even know how old she is. Gosh.
No, I don't, like, I just know that like she's, let me see. Actually, she was born like about.
You don't have to dox your sister. It's okay.
Yeah, 4 years after me, so she's 35 exactly. Yeah, 35.
Hollywood is garbage. No value is lost in the Manchester. That's edgy. I'm kidding.
Oh wait, no, hey, that was my tweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw Brit. I was like,
wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's true. Nothing has been lost in Manchester.
Yeah, nothing of value was lost in the Manchester attack.
You're gonna slice me on that edge.
Actually, I saw. Look, the latest Red Ice video. It's Operation Reinhardt. It says Ariana Grande's music is not worth dying for.
That's true.
So we should just let Ahmed go after it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh yeah, like let
better yet, the people that attend the people that attend Ariana Grande concerts are not worth protecting.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, most of them are just all of these poison minds.
Yeah.
And the reason why I said nothing of value is lost, because I mean, if you were to just look at it objectively, they were already sacrificed on the altar on the altar of sex by whoever let them go there, their parents or their boyfriends or whatever, and they were dead in spirit anyway. But yeah, I mean, what did we lose? We lost a couple of thoughts. We lost who.
An 8-year-old. We lost an 8-year-old. That was kind of sad. That was
Oh
You have
yeah,
children getting killed. That's not something to joke about doing. They're not thoughts at that age. They're not.
yeah.
I'm not talking about the 8-year-old.
He's talking about like
Yeah,
the teenagers.
That
But
being
it still
said, that
implies.
being said, what is an 8-year-old doing at a concert like that?
Well, the thing
Yeah.
is, they see this. Like, all right. So, I heard Ariana Grande used to be on Nickelodeon or something. I guess I don't really follow her.
Yeah,
But I mean,
she's against like the
Bella and the
Catholic Church.
Bulldogs.
She was against the Catholic Church because of how they treated the gays. Oh, they.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hey, and then we lost one of those. We lost a gay. So I,
Ooh.
Well,
I guess in the West that is something of value.
I won't counter signal that. But no, but seriously, folks. Yeah.
It's not funny. It's not funny. Seriously, like it's edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what happened in the days when Manchester produced pop stars like Davy Jones and Peter Noon? Now those guys were real entertainers. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh no, the eternal boomer.
That's way beyond my scope. I don't even know who that is.
Oh my
no,
gosh!
man. You got the eternal boomer.
Davy
Long
Jones,
before
who's in
my
the
time, my
Monkees.
dude.
Peter Noon was from Herman's Hermits. Come on.
Long before my time, I bet.
Oh,
Oh no, it's
Noon
the
is like
eternal
three-
boomer. I'm joking.
It's the eternal Mancunian.
Beware the boomer.
Oh, the boomer's the worst. Lord.
You know, I kind of feel like editing out like Left 4 Dead lines and excerpts. Boomer.
I don't know what Left 4 Dead is.
It's a video game, Ian.
See, you kids, I don't play the games you kids do, so I don't waste my time.
The eternal millennial.
You play Diablo and the original Fallout.
Edgy.
Oh, have you guys seen the picture of the latest Far Cry?
Oh, that thing Ramsey was talking about.
I heard about that. Oh, they're attacking Christians. I don't even know. I don't know about that. I'm waiting for all the info to drop before I.
Yeah,
jump on the bandwagon.
I'll send you the. I posted it on my Facebook page, my normie Facebook page. You know.
Yeah, if they go
That's-
after Christians like that, I wouldn't be surprised in the least.
Someone's like, "Oh, the bad guys actually look cool now."
Oh yeah. It's like
That's what Ramsey's always saying.
I want to root for the bad guys this time around. Let me see if I still.
Well, if they put everyone in this hangout in a video game and depicted us badly, you guarantee everyone would be like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool." Of course, because tell the truth, you're a bad guy now.
Yep.
Hey guys, should we start wrapping up here? It's been about 4 hours since we began, so I think this is probably getting too long for most people to sit and listen to. So I think it's about time to wrap up here.
Okie dokie.
We're gonna go off the air, at least. You can keep talking after that, but if you want, I'm gonna kind of. All right, let's just give a shout out to everyone who came. Thank you, Bill Marchant. Thank you, LUMEN Saul, who you guys all missed, you latecomers. Thank you, Sam Heidelberg. Thank you, William Scott. Thank you, Delta USA. Thank you, LUE-YEE. Thank you, BRITTON.
Woo.
Good talking to all you. Thanks for coming for our 10 viewers still out there. Hope you enjoyed listening, and we'll see you next time.
До свидания.
Okay.